really quick. I don't know why the video's not starting this morning, so just having a little technical difficulty, but you should be able to see what's on your screen. And I understand right now you can't do chat. I'm trying to see where the chat is to see where we can get you on chat. But if you have Q&A, please during the session, go ahead and put your Q&A in there, okay? And we're gonna start today's class with Show Me the Money. So of course, Show Me the Money is all about Linda. Yay, Sharon. Come on
This is
down.
not one of my favorite things. Alan's a far better teacher than I am, trust me. I can share a lot of stuff with you, but I don't know how interesting it's gonna be. Where's the thing to move it?
Yeah, well, unfortunately, I can't get this thing. Look, watch this. This is crazy. So anyways, you're not gonna be able to slide. So what I have to do, I think, is that, Mark, I might use you as a access point.
Yep, you'll
Let's
click
scroll
on,
down.
click on the slides as it goes, as it
Well,
goes.
it's actually PDF, so.
Right.
Yeah, just put
So
the
I
slide
think it
on.
would be a moderate, we don't monitor this. I still can't get it past the one. All right, you guys, chat is working now. Thank you for letting me know earlier. So, all right, Sharon, it's all you, hon.
Wait. How do I make the thing move?
So
Hold on.
you gotta go here and just go like this. Well, sorry. Just scroll down. Use that little.
Use it,
Okay. Yeah.
or those arrows right
No, no.
Arrows down here?
Or you can do it one or the other. For
Is
some reason, yeah.
Yeah, arrow, okay.
All right, cool. Thank y'all.
Gotcha.
Have fun, Sharon.
Oh, I will. This is a,
There's no handout this morning on that, so with her is, she's already given me some, I'll print some out and online, I'll make sure you have, on the chat box, I'll attach it in just a few minutes.
yeah, that'd be good for them to take home with them to have for information.
Yeah.
As we all know, buying a home is probably the biggest transaction of your client will ever do. You know, that's the most important thing. You going too fast.
Oh, no, I was trying to check and make sure it worked.
It's important, you gotta get with the program. It's important, that you start at the beginning. While that sounds, it's obvious that it is the biggest thing they're gonna buy. Today's goal is to leave the valuable understanding, information about the process so you can easily navigate technicalities and avoid common pitfalls that y'all run into. A lot of times when you're having your first initial meeting with your borrower, or your clients, my borrowers, it's something for you to take, this will help you take away with that. Housing market today, how many of y'all were in the business in 2007? Nobody. Well, it was a fun time. 2007, 2008 was terrible. It was the housing sector bubble bust, and it was terrible. They blamed it on mortgage lenders,
Of course.
investment bankers, insurance companies, and the credit bureaus. So, and all of it was their fault up there that regulate all that stuff, because we don't do that. We just do what they tell us we can do. And I never sold those loans, but a lot of people did and made a lot of money. But those 80/20s are gone, which is sad. Because in some situations, an 80/20 is good because it's 100%. And it was legal 100%. It was without down payment assistance. It came with a high rate, but anyway, it was there for you. Anyway, that was the Dodd-Frank Act was created after all that hit the fan, because they needed to take care of people. It's like Goldman Sachs was going out, Citibank was going out. They were all going bankrupt because there were so many foreclosures coming in. So anyway, they created that act, and that's what that was. What else was that we need to talk about?
Oh, shoot, I'm sorry. You know, I ain't going too fast.
You go back and forth. Yeah.
Oh, I skipped one, sorry.
Interest rates remain historically low. They're not low like they used to be. They're not 3, they're probably 6.875 as of yesterday. The inventory of homes on the market, we all know that it's a low market. We don't have a lot of inventory. We all know that. Hopefully some will come up. I know there's a lot more. I was just in Henry County the other day, there were like 3 subdivisions for me.
New construction is
New
booming.
construction.
That's what Alan was talking about yesterday.
Huge.
New construction is booming, and that's a market that if you're not comfortable with new construction and how everything works in it, get comfortable with it, because it is really.
It's a different animal.
The big thing about new construction that he told us was that the builders don't have to put the homes in the MLS until sheet rock goes in. So a lot of times there won't be anything in the MLS, but they are building like crazy. So ride around, look at the neighborhoods. If you see one going up, go make friends with the on-site agent so that they can keep you abreast of what's actually happening and what their timelines are.
We're gonna have the houses finished.
Yep.
With mortgage financing, the first thing we do is look at credit. I know people say, I'm scared, I know my credit's not good. Well, we were talking about this yesterday in class. A lot of days, a lot of these people that said their credit's bad, their credit isn't bad. The last one I did was have a 645 credit score. And she said she had terrible credit. Well, 645 is not a bad score. It's doable. You can do an FHA loan with 3.5% down. So it's not terrible. So anyway, we were able to get her in a house. So,
How many of y'all think that Credit Karma's credit score that they give you is accurate?
It's not at all.
It's about as accurate as this estimate is. So,
They use 4, right? When they look at home lending, they use about 4 different,
3.
is it 3?
They got 3. You got Experian, you got Equifax, and you got TransUnion, and they take the mid score. Out of the 3, if you've got a 700, a 640, and a 520, they're gonna take that mid score. And okay, if you've got 2 people on the lawn, 3 or 4 people on the lawn, they're gonna go with the lowest score. The lowest mid score. I don't care if somebody over here's got 800.
wow.
They go with the lowest score. So that's how that works. You got income, you got a figure income. How many of y'all in here have come across borrowers that were variable and has variable income? Variable incomes, that's just a scary thing that sneaks up on you, because I had a lady that had she worked for MARTA. And she got a job with Fulton County Sheriff's Department, still driving, doing the same thing, but just a different job, making $30,000 more a year than she was at MARTA. So she came, she said, I want to get a house. She's not making a lot more money. I can afford it now. So, okay, so we looked at it. Her hours are like 32, 38, 40 out of a weekly. That's why out of a monthly period, she had different hours. So that's variable income. So you have to have variable income for 12 months to average it before you can apply and use just that income. Otherwise, if you've only been on that job, say 6 months, you'd have to go back to the job they had that made 25,000 less and average it with the new income. And it's gonna be much less than, what the new job is. So that's huge. And I mean, a lot of people don't understand that. And when they get there, they go, oh my God, I've got a better job. I can get a house. No, you can't, not unless you've done it for 12 months. Assets, always want to be able to verify where their assets are coming from. Have you got a down payment? How much you got saved? What's in your 401k? Can you pull it out? Do we need down payment assistance? That'll be the last thing we want to do.
I just learned this recently, actually. Isn't it like the earnest money? Anytime there's something financed, the earnest money has to be written either in a money order or check. It cannot be cash because then it cannot be traced if they have to add it onto their loan.
That's correct.
Okay.
You won't get credit for it unless I can verify. So in other words, I'll have to have the bank statement. It came out of, gotta show it clear in the bank, gotta show it. That they have it so that we can actually do it, give it towards the closing costs. That's basically what it's for.
That's
Or for the balance of the loan, whatever, it drops it, some if that's the case, but it is used. FICO score median of 3 scores, like we were just talking about. I don't know what the 740, 600 is, because we could go to a 580, so I don't even know what that is. Compromised credit, we were just talking about. It's best to go ahead, this is what they were talking about yesterday. It's better to go ahead and get your buyers, even if they got bad, if they say they got bad credit. Have them go ahead and get them, just to get them pre-qualified. Just look at it, see what it is. If the credit's bad, we need to know what it is to see what we fix. You don't know until you know. And then that way you can put them in a position to buy. Then y'all can eat.
How bad is does the pull that you do to check their credit? Like this person says, my credit's bad, but I don't want to have my credit pulled because I don't want it to hurt my score.
We
How
do
bad
soft
it
pulls.
does? So you do soft pull.
I don't do a hard pull until we actually have a contract.
There we go.
And then how many points does it impact it?
With it's being a mortgage, not as much as it would if you're buying a car, getting a credit card.
And then how long would it take if they didn't do anything else, but pay their bills on time? How long would it take to get those same number of points back? 3 to 5 points, right?
Just as long as you're paying your bills on time, it'll keep going up.
Maybe a month or two. So when people say, I don't want to have my credit pulled, I don't want to do the loan app because it's going to hurt my credit score. Well, you're trying to buy a house, first of all. So it's going to have to be pulled at some point. But the amount of points that you lose by pulling any lender pulling your credit is not going to hurt you for a long enough time to keep you from buying the house. So tell them we have to have the credit pull to know where you stand, to be able to formulate a plan for you to get where you want to get. And that's what they don't understand is these steps have to happen. We had someone yesterday who miraculously found their dream home. But 3 days before that would not fill out the loan app because they didn't want to have their credit pulled. I said, you're not gonna be ready to buy if the home comes up, and it actually did come up yesterday morning. The house went back on the market that she had been like falling all over herself about. And now she's delaying the time and possibly having somebody else swoop in and get the house that she wanted because she wouldn't do the loan application to get ready to buy the house. So what we talk about is if you stay ready, you don't have to get ready. She decided she wanted to get ready at the last minute. I hope she doesn't lose the house,
Oh, I do too.
but that's what could happen.
I'm sorry, I just wanna make sure this is the same with you all. 'Cause this is how it was in Kentucky. I would have folks sometimes where they would be like, well, I've gotten pre-approved like a week ago, right? And it isn't what I thought it was gonna be. And they wanted to shop around, but they were afraid, hey, if I go get my credit pulled again, it's gonna only drop it even more. So isn't there like a window, right? If they go to get it pulled for a home
Yeah.
loan, isn't there a 30-day window?
I don't know if it's 30 or 15 days, I'm not sure, but it's a frequency of how often you pull it.
Right. I didn't know if that varied from state to state, but I know if it was like 30 days, if they're like, hey, we wanna look at this, if it did hit it, it wasn't gonna hit it tremendous.
What I tell people, if they wanna look at shop rates, and you know, if that's what they call me, they say, I'm just looking for a rate, I need to shop it. And I'll pull their credit, I do a soft pull, it's gonna give me the same credit score as a hard. So I tell them, here's your credit scores, your tri-merge, here it is. I said, if you're looking for rates, you should be able to tell them how much you're gonna borrow, what your sales price is, what you're putting down. You should be able to tell them all the criteria they need and give them those 3 scores, and they can go in their CRM and they can go with their LOS, the loan officer system, and then they can pull it, right? They can pull rates with that. They don't have to pull their credit again. So I've just had my credit pulled by a lender and I'm shopping for rates. So here are my 3 credit scores and this is what I'm doing. Yeah, what's your best rate today? Without points.
Okay.
Wow.
Now, does this soft pull, does it pull as far as like their debt to income, their payment history,
Yes.
stuff like that as well?
It's a regular credit report, but it's a soft pull because honestly, I don't understand the difference between the two. Do you?
Mhm.
And you do credit report classes, I know. I don't understand the difference. However, when we spoke with Factual Data, our credit bureau,
Mhm.
they said that, you know, just do the soft pulls because number one, it doesn't cost any money. A regular hard pull costs $6 every time you pre-pull somebody. So, you know, it doesn't cost any money. Plus, it's a good thing to tell your buyers if they're scared, well, it's not gonna hurt your credit. It's a soft pull, it's not gonna affect it. So that's a good thing to be able to tell them.
Queen of soft pull.
I just tell them, that's what we're doing. Let's see, credit individual and credit couple. I was laughing the other day, y'all, it was so funny, as Mark called me, and he said, well, I said, are you married? No, but I got a significant other. And I said, okay, all right, I understand that. He said, I said, well, your significant other be going on the loan? He said, well, he said, yeah, he said, because they'll sign if I can't. You think about that, write that out, significant. Sign if I can't.
I like that.
I'm dying laughing. I said, are you seriously kidding me? He said, yeah, she gonna sign if I can't. That's what's gonna happen. I said, oh, okay. All right. Revolving credit, of course, I don't know why they got that up there. You've got revolving credit, you've got installment credit, you've got installment means it's a card. It's something you're paying on to pay off. The revolving's like a credit card. So that's always on credit.
Isn't it best to, like with credit cards, not to actually just cancel them, but just to pay them down at a 0 balance and let them just fall
Never cancel them.
off? Okay.
Don't ever want to do that. Even if if you've got 15 cards and they all maxed out and you're paying them all off, let them stay there. Don't mess with them. Because they're gonna, if you do, it's gonna drop your score like it's just bad dropping. So don't do it. I always tell everybody, if you want to pay things off, pay it off. If you want to, actually the ideal thing is to leave it at 31% or below utilization. So in other words, if you've got $1,000 limit, you want to only use 31% of that credit. And nothing over that, or your credit score is gonna go down. How can credit be improved easily? It ain't improved easily. It takes a minute. You know, people say, well, my credit score is 570. How long will it get to a 620? I said, I have no idea. It's just such algorithms they use is crazy. So I have no idea. We have a what if simulator that what I do is If the credit scores are low, I go to that or Wayfinder. And what I do is go in and put their criteria in, and it tells me what they need to do. So in other words, if you've got a card that, say you've got a credit card of 5,000 and you owe $5,025. So you've maxed it out, it's gone. They usually tell you to pay that down to a certain amount and it'll bring your scores up this much. So it's pretty cool. I mean, it does help. I had one person that had a 440 credit score, and I told him exactly what to do. And about six months later, he came back and it was a 680.
Now, if they're wanting to kind of put a rush on, it, let's say that they're at like a 580 and then you find out on the credit simulators that they're able to get it done, fairly quickly by paying something off.
Uh-huh.
Can you ask for a note ahead of time, like a letter from that loan company showing that it's been paid off to go ahead and adjust their credit?
No, I have to have a letter from the trade line. Like if it's Capital One and they're paying it from 5,000 down to 1,000, I need something from Capital One saying they owe $1,000 and they're in good standing.
But if
And
they-
I can rescore.
But if they had the letter and it didn't show up on their credit, that would still be okay as long as you had something
I have to have that to rescore it,
that was.
because you don't want to have to repull the credit.
The two most important factors of credit is utilization and on-time payments. On-time payments, you can't do anything about that quickly because you have to start making your payments on time and then next month pay it on time and next month pay it on time. But the credit utilization, hugely important. You could fix that with cash, which is like somebody paying the bill for you. And if you've been making your payments on time every single month for 6 months in a row, this is something that you can write this down if you want to, or you can call me and ask me about it. Pay your bills 6 months in a row on time. You can call that creditor and ask them to increase your credit limit without a hard credit pull, and they'll give you another 20 or 25%. Raise your limit by 20 or 25%, which lowers your utilization. Right? You're using less of the available credit. Anyway, I can show you that if you call me about it, but it's a smooth way to increase your credit score. That's one of the few things that you can do quickly. But the other way, you have to have money, so.
And bear in mind, if they're trying to get a loan, if it's got to go through underwriting and somebody else pays off the bill, just say they pay it off for them or pay it down, it's a gift.
It's a
Gotta have a letter,
Gotta
right?
have a gift letter.
That's right.
Show it, because they're gonna ask you where you got that money to pay that off, not like it's any of their business, but, if your mom paid it off, your daddy paid it off, I mean, to me, it's none of their business, but they gonna ask.
Well, anybody who would pay that much money on your bills, they're a gift, right? They're giving you a gift. All right,
It's a gift.
let's see here, where.
Okay, mortgage financing is calculated on a gross base salary. And that actually doesn't make any sense to me. Y'all have been doing this over 25 years. I'll tell you something, gross income, you don't take home gross. So have people that can qualify for a $400,000 or $500,000 house, but they only had, so 60% of that because they paid it out to the IRS. So then you gotta eat, you gotta put furniture in there, you gotta take care of your kids and
Insurance.
And insurance.
Okay.
so it doesn't make any sense, but that's how they do it. They didn't ask my opinion. Bonuses, commissions, and overtime, you have to have that for 2 years. You have to show a history of the second job for 2 years. Before you can use it, and there has to be for bonuses and for overtime, in order to be able to count it, toward their income, their gross income, it has to have a minimum of 2 years. Taxes, medical, 401k are not taken into consideration when it determined overall income. Okay. Debt income ratio, that's gonna be your debt. Y'all know what that is? Are y'all familiar with that? Debt income ratios? Those are huge, and that will make or break a deal real fast. Every debt on your credit report is used for calculations in addition to child support or alimony obligations. Typically, alimony or child support is gonna be on whoever's check it is that's trying to qualify. And so we can see that they're paying. If they don't divulge that to me in the beginning, because then I'll have to have a divorce decree. Let's see, mortgage finance and income. There's your top ratio, that's your housing ratio. And that's divided into your gross monthly income. Your bottom ratio is your debt, but divided into your monthly income. And that gives us the two ratios we need. Typically, the ratios are 31-43 is what they usually are. Now, with FHA, if you don't use down payment assistance, they allow you to go to 56.999. Well, there's where 2/3 of my people are. 56.99 on the back end, 47 on the front end for FHA. Conventional is not so forgiving. it'll only go to 45. Let's see, savings, there's your mortgage financing and assets, savings and checking account, your 401k can be used. Depending on if their plan will allow you to take anything from it. Typically, they'll let you do a hardship withdrawal on your 401k because it's for real estate. You can't really do it for anything else. Most administrators won't let you do it for anything else.
But you take in consideration, you have to pay that back though, right?
If it's a hardship, you're not going to pay it back. If it's a loan you're taking out against your 401k and they'll allow it, then yes, you have to, whatever payment that is, that's, you're paying that yourself back, has to be put in the debt to income ratios.
I want to ask to see if you all have done this. I had a deal one time where it was a contingency where they were still going to be using financing even with the proceeds of their last home.
Mhm.
But what ended up happening was he had so many things on his credit that he had to pay off.
Mhm.
And what they worked out was they were like, okay, hey, we'll pay this off at closing when you sell this house, and then it will go towards this
Mhm.
to fluctuate their credit enough for them to get the loan that they were going to get on the next house.
I do that on the front end. If and that's one of my first conversations when I talk to the borrowers, I say, hey, this got to be paid off, or you're not gonna be able to close because your debt income's too high. Okay, it's not a problem. I got the money coming through because they're closing on the personal home they're selling. Same day we're closing on this one. So all I do is enter in the computer with where that's being paid off, and it'll get under it that way.
Okay, cool. So you guys do that as well?
Oh, yeah. Oh, yeah, all day long. To make something work, you got to,
Right.
if they're gonna close. I don't know what that means. Cars, homes, et cetera, not used in calculations. If you own a car, it's used in calculations, so I don't know what they're talking about.
Maybe it's not considered as an asset.
Maybe, I guess so.
Excuse me.
I guess so. The defined picture comes together once your credit, income, and assets are confirmed. Of course it does. We can do a, like it says, a pre-qualification or pre-approval. The difference in the two, a pre-qualification is me talking to somebody verbally on the telephone and them telling me I make $100,000 gross a year. I do, there's my social, here's my date of birth, I got this money to put down. That's a pre-qualification. The pre-approval is paperwork. I want to see pay stubs, I want to see W-2s, I want to see bank statements, where's the money coming from? If it's a gift, who's it coming from? Mother, a sister from another mother, a brother from another daddy, I don't know, but so whoever it's coming from, that's what I gotta see. And I will not give a pre-approval unless I have that stuff. Some people get really mad because I won't just issue a pre-qualification based on what they're telling me. Well, at the end of the day, when I finally get that stuff I've gotta have, and they don't make that money because it's variable income
Mhm.
or because of something else, I can't use what you're telling me. I have something to see on paper. So that's the only way I'll do a pre-approval.
And for us as agents, guys, most seasoned agents aren't gonna accept a pre-qualification letter with an offer.
Right.
If there's not a pre-approval, they're not even gonna respond. So a lot of times they won't respond, but they definitely won't accept it because it's just verbal, like Sharon said, there's nothing they can depend on,
Well,
so.
that listed agent typically, when my buyer goes and starts looking for a house and they start offering, that listed agent that gets that offer calls me at 99 times out of 100. I get a call from the listed agent and they say, hey, this is so-and-so with whoever, and I've got an offer from this person, you know, how strong are they? You know, they just want to know before they accept the offer. And I could definitely say they're strong. They got money, they got reserves, they got good credit, they've got no issues, they got been secure on the job for 10 years, you know, they're good as gold, you know, take the offer, and they do. But that's the only way I'm able to do that, is if I have all that documentation. Let's see, the mortgage financing products, Lord help, there's so many of them. You got your conventional max limit is $766,550. That is huge. You don't have to do that's a conforming conventional loan. You don't have to do a non-conforming, which is a jumbo. Jumbo rates are higher. You can get a better rate with a conventional. FHA is 3.5% down. Max limit is $498,257. That has come up so much from last year. That's huge. I mean, FHA is great with 3.5% down, and they're not taking every dime they've got out of their pocket to buy a house.
Right.
They've got saved. VA, of course, is 100% financing. Fannie Mae, Freddie Mac, that's the two largest, basically, entities that actually purchase mortgage-backed securities. They actually go to them. So that's who had lax regulations when all that stuff happened with Dodd-Frank in 2007 when the bubble burst. But it was our fault. Let's see. Home renovation, we can do FHA 203Ks, do a 203Bs up to 10,000. We do, we got some really good first time home buyer renos that you can do with 3% down. So it's good. That's it. Jumbo, the max is 3 billion. It's not 766, 550.
Is the adjustable to arms loans?
We did. Years ago, I looked at those, the LIBOR was so low, the rates on the LIBORs were so low on the arms, the 3, 5, 7, and 10. I would look at those and I would look at a fixed rate. The only thing about to me, and I'm conservative, so the only thing to me, arms are scary to me. Because the verbiage in an arm terms book that you have to look at, your rate can actually go up at 7, 8 points when it comes time for that thing to change up.
That's a big change in your mortgage payment.
It's huge, but now, but if the rates are low enough, they could either not go up or they may go down. So you're taking such a chance for those things. So I don't sell those. I will do one if somebody's smart enough to know what they're doing. But I don't like to do them because it's scary those.
When they do, an adjustable rate mortgages, and let's say if it gets to that time, they're like, oh my gosh, the rates are crazy. Are they allowed to do that again? They're like, just buy it, fix for a second until the rate fixes itself down the road?
You mean buy another house with an arm?
No, the same loan,
Uh-huh.
but when it goes to adjust and it's too high, are they able to adjust it again?
No, you have to refinance it.
Yeah, if you
Get it out
refinance,
of that arm because you don't have any negotiating power anymore. You have no negotiating power at all. When that 3-year arm is up, you're stuck with what's there. And that's too scary to me, unless you're only gonna stay there 3 years.
Back at the FHA right here,
Mhm.
are you saying, the max is $500,000, that's it?
Max base limit, when I say base limit, that's without mortgage insurance. So in other words, your total loan amount's gonna be over 500,000. But your max base is 498,257.
So if they find something more than that, then
Yeah, they can't, yeah, well, it won't go, because the FHA bit limits are based on zip codes.
unless they pay, the money, right?
Pay what?
Let's say, for instance, they find something 700,000, they want to put down, say.
They have to put money down.
350,000.
Yeah,
They just
you're
need
only,
a loan to cover.
we're only gonna lend the 498,257 base account.
For the adjustable rate mortgages, are they proportional to the market rates, like to the overall economy, or can they just adjust it however they want?
They're tied to lots of things. They're tied to the market, they're tied to the LIBOR, which is England, it's an England-based thing. I don't even know what it is, but it's tied to the LIBOR. But it is tied to the market and what's going on in the market. Which makes it even scarier.
I got a question about the home renovation. So that's if someone finds a house that needs renovation, or that's to renovate a home they already own?
Either one. You can refinance and you can use it to do that, but on a purchase, if the house needs renovations and you want to do that before you move in, then you can do a renovation loan. Now,
Is there,
There is.
oh, yeah, tell us about the now.
the caveat to that is the appraised value has to come in at what you're buying it for, at 50% over what you're buying it for. So in other words, they can come in and say it appraises for this now, but if you would almost have to add on to the footprint of the house. And there's several stipulations to that for those renovation loans, but they're good loans. I mean, I've done several.
Good.
They just have to appraise.
And if it's your primary residence, of course, you'd have to still put 3.5% down or 5%?
Primary residence, if it's your first time home buyer or hadn't owned a home in 3 years, it's 3%. If you've owned a home in the last 5 years on conventional, it's 5%.
Okay.
And bear in mind with conventional now, that this just came out, Fannie and Freddie changed it this year, instead of having to put 10% down on a 2 to 4 family home, you only have to put 5% down now. So if you're buying a duplex, it only takes 5% down on a conventional home.
Primary residence.
Mhm.
Well, let's say, for instance, that you want to get like an investment home. So you already have a primary home, you have an investment home.
Yeah.
Do you have to put 20%?
You do,
Mhm.
for all investment properties. There's there's no program out there that'll take less than that. There used to be one that would take 15% down, but the rates were so high, it was almost like going and getting hard money. I mean, it was stupid. So you just can't, you gotta have 20% down, you have to have 6 months reserves in the bank, liquid, in a 401k, and a savings and money market, something checking to, for that new property you're buying. And that's true for any investment property.
With the home renovation loan, I'd like to know a little bit more about how that works. I've never really heard of that. is as far as like they're able to start renovating this home before they move in?
Yes, they can, what they do is we close on it, you've done the renovation loan, you know how much you're getting in a,
That's true.
escrow, thank you, I won't say equity, but escrow. You know what's in your escrow account to use to, if you're gonna remodel your kitchen, remodel your bathroom, we've already got specs and plans, we've already got a licensed contractor. You can't do it yourself, they won't let you. And you've got everything there to renovate the property. And then as soon as you close, they'll start renovation.
And then once the renovation is done, do they have to come back and get an appraisal on it?
They do. You have
And
to
then
have a
what
file.
happens if it doesn't appraise them, what they thought it was going to be?
Well, I've never had that happen before, and I don't even know what to tell you on that. I'd have to get back to you, because I have no idea. But they usually do appraise, so. Not in the market we're in.
Well, the reason I was asking in case, I have some clients like that, they're gonna ask me the risk too, and I didn't know if it was so severe where they were probably like, that just seems too risky.
I'll make sure you got, y'all make sure all of you's got my information, but, and then I'll get back to you on that. I'd have to call the renovation team and find out how that works.
How does the home renovation loan compare to like taking out a home equity loan for someone that already owns the property? Is one better than the other?
Well, if it's a purchase, the home renovation, you're gonna do that home renovation because you want stuff done in the house that you know you're not gonna do what you close, you don't have the extra money for.
Just for someone that already owns their house.
Somebody that owns a house, what I would probably do is look at the rate, current rate on the mortgage, and I would probably suggest an equity loan. Because if you've got a 2.875 rate, I would not dare tell you to refinance your house.
Yeah.
That's more of a situational thing.
It is, yeah.
Mhm.
It's just, it depends on the person. Let's see, you've got, 30, you got 30, 20, 15, and 10-year terms. Of course, the lesser the term, the more the payment.
Right.
So you have to bear that in mind. Seller's concessions, the seller can pay closing cost. It's different from every loan program. For conventional, and you're putting 3 or 5% down, they can pay 3% of closing costs. If they're putting 10% down, they can pay, I think it's up to 4 or 5% in closing costs, the seller can. On an FHA loan, they can pay up to 6%. No matter, it's just 6%. I rarely see that. I've got one Max One agent. She gets 6 on every single one of them. I'm like, Amy, how do you do it? I just don't even know. So anyway, she does get 6%. On a VA, they can pay up to 4. Maybe that covers that. Lender's credit. There ain't a whole lot of that anymore. Used to, we could really give credits, but we can't really do it anymore because the margins are so tight and the rates are so high and it costs too much for the rate. So back in the day, a lender credit would be something like I would give them maybe a 0.5 point or 3/4 of a point, toward closing costs. They're a loan amount.
Do you guys ever give an appraisal before it closes, you know what I mean, pay for that up front for them?
You do. Prices have to be paid up front because that's a RESPA law.
No, I'm sorry, I'm saying sometimes you guys paying for the appraisal rather than the client, if they don't have money.
We do.
You guys do, okay.
I can approve that to be done. I don't like to do that because I don't want nobody trotting out on me and need to be stuck with that $650 appraisal because I have to pay it if that's the case. Out of my pocket, not out of the company's pocket. Cash to close. You always want to be able to verify how much cash they've got in the bank and savings and 401k so that you know that they're prepared to close. If they don't, where's it coming from? That might be a question y'all ask. I mean, you have had tons of meetings, so is that something y'all talk about in your initial?
Yeah, well, yeah, we definitely, the big deal is this, if the lender cannot verify the source of every piece of financing that has to do with this deal, then it can't be used. It has to season for what, 2 months?
It can't be mattress money.
Yeah, it can't be mattress money. It's got to season in a bank for at least 2 months. So when people start the process, Sharon's gonna ask those questions. Where's the money coming from? Where is it now? Who are you getting a gift from? We need to put that in the bank right now. And then 2 months from now, it's seasoned, we can close. So it's huge that you're having these conversations where you're informing them what to do, the step-by-step, let them ask plenty of questions, be very clear about what it is. Now, we as agents should really stay in our lane. Like when they start asking financing questions, say, I can tell you what happened with me, but really who you should talk to is the lender. The person who's gonna be lending the money, they're up on the rules, the regulations, as they change from day to day, week to week or whatever. So ask those questions of the lender. The person I'm connecting you with, I trust them. I've used them before.
As far as cash though, and I've had so many people come to me and say, well, I said, you've only got 6,000, you need 13 to close. Well, I've got money in my safe at home. I said, well, that's not gonna work. Give it to your mama and let her give you a gift. I don't know, but you can't give me that money at that safe. I can't take the mattress money. A lot of people say, well, I don't trust the bank. Well, you need to trust one for 2 months because that's how I have to verify the money, where it's coming from. It can't come from shady places. It can't come from, there's no cash that's gonna ever be verified. They will back it out. If you've got $40,000 in the bank and you know, you got a $20,000 deposit in there to make it to that 50, they go back that 20 out if you can't tell me where it came from. And I know that is terribly invasive, but that's just, it's buying a house.
So your mattress money, it has to.
Take it out your mattress, take it out your safe, put it in the bank and let it sit there 2 months. And then I don't care where it came from.
So they won't ask where,
Nope.
where this large deposit came from.
No, because hopefully your bank statement's drawn, even if they don't, they're not gonna ask. But typically what happens, I don't get the statement where that money was put in.
Okay. So tell them 3 months, put
Right.
it in 3 months.
I'd say give yourself 2 to 3 months. To take it out of the safe, take it out of the mattress, take it out of wherever you got it, and put it in the bank and let it sit there and then go shopping.
Do you have to keep it there until the loan closes as well?
Yeah.
Okay.
And another thing that if you got, there's every day, y'all, I see so many people got 14 bank accounts. I can't hardly keep up with one. I don't know how somebody got 14. So they got $10 here, $5 here, then they just moving it all over the place. I said, please quit moving that money. Because then I gotta get a statement for that one, 2 months for that and 2 months for that. It's like a joke. I said, leave it where it's at. Don't bother it. Well, I like to see how much interest on it. It's all coming from the same place. Just leave it where it's at till you close it. I don't care what you do. And they finally go, okay. Like this is an example, yeah, financing example. It's $8,000 in annual taxes.
Oh.
That sort of gives you an idea. The purchase price is $380, the down payment is 3.5 or 13.3. Base loan amount, like we were talking about, is $366.7. Estimated property taxes are 8. Your estimated insurance is $1,500. The rate's 3.750. God, don't we wish? Interest rate subject to change, it certainly have. This is just an example to you know, monthly payment including mortgage, property taxes and home insurance is $27.79. Now that, I wish we could get back to that. No, we won't see that for a while, probably. The next, I'm not sure what they're trying to show. It's different insurance. Credit towards closing costs specified. Okay, they're getting a credit in this one for closing costs, and that goes up there. It's 4.25 is the interest rate. Same scenario, just a different rate and includes a credit towards closing costs. Money payment is $28.86. Oh, yeah, because higher rate, it's 4.25. I was gonna say, why is it more? Okay, mortgage financing, where to go? You can go to a bank, which most people try to stay away from banks. They don't, I tell people stay away from Wells Fargo, from Bank of America, from Chase, from several, I've had to rescue like 3 or 4 loans from all 3 of those because they wouldn't close them. It takes forever. I mean, I don't even understand. And USAA is taking 90 days on a VA. So you don't want to go there either. The rate might be a little bit better at a credit union, like a Navy Federal, but you know, still, if you want to get your loan, if you want to move in a house, don't go to a big bank to do it. Federal credit unions, like we said, sometimes they're cheaper, sometimes not. Mortgage bankers certainly are good. Mortgage brokers are even better because mortgage bankers has a treasure chest of most anything you want to do. I mean, if we can't do it on the secondary financing market, I got 90 different places to farm it out to. 90 different companies. So somebody's got something for somebody everywhere that we can close. That's the difference in a mortgage banker and mortgage broker, because brokers can broker the deals and get them closed. I know Alan talks about this all the time. Richardson, our broker. Buying advantages and renting advantages. How many of those conversations y'all had to have with your clients? That they'd rather rent. They just don't get the big picture. The buying advantage, of course, you got property write-offs, you got taxes you can write off. And interest, you got your mortgage insurance you can write it off. That's for now anyway. Long-term equity build up, not your landlord's, it's yours. You got your home improvements, improved your equity, and you can plan on staying in your home for over 5 years, buying is better. And plus, if you, the thing about buying is it's yours, the rent's not going up every time you, have to sign a lease. So that's a huge thing, little to no maintenance, like lawn care. Well, if you buy something that doesn't have 5 acres, you're not gonna have that much lawn care anyway. So get something with, an acre, quarter acre. Easily movable for job changes. If you say you're gonna be changing, if you're that kind of person that has to change jobs due to your, or change locations due to your job, might be better to rent. I don't know if that happens all the time. Some utilities have you included in your rent. A lot of times, I think water is included in rent. I think they usually include water. Not, they don't include electricity that I know of. Yeah, prepare. When you can find a team of professionals you can trust, if you can find your mortgage loan originator, somebody that's gonna actually lead you to the closing table. Somebody that's gonna tell you what's going on, keep you updated, keep you abreast of all the status that's going on when it goes from processing to underwriting or appraisal or title. Everything's done, and from A to Z, you're totally taken care of till we get in that closing table when you close. Your buyer's agent is huge. They navigate for you the process. Are y'all buyer's agents? Anybody, or y'all listing agents?
I'm listening.
Buyer's agents are huge. I mean, I work with lots of them, and I mean, they're all so good, and they're like babysit for them. They're like family when they get done. I mean, after 30 days, you feel like they're like your sister, your brother, somebody you're always gonna give Christmas cards and stuff to, because you love them. You love their kids, you love everything. Engineer report, we don't need an engineer report on much loans. The only thing we need an engineer report on is something FHA, if it's manufactured housing. Inspector, you always want one of those, always. An attorney, usually the buyer's agent picks the attorney usually.
A lot of times.
But you can pick, if you've got a house you're selling to somebody, they're able to pick your own attorney. It's in the documents. Are you picking your own attorney? I am not picking my own attorney. And usually it's picked for you because y'all assign them based, y'all pretty much have it on there because you will deal with who you can deal with. Usually it's somebody you talk to all the time. It's somebody is going to communicate with you.
A lot of
Rest, we got our
times,
favorites.
a lot of times the listing agent picks the attorney, if the house was in probate or there were some other issues with it where they've already done the title work. And a lot of times they'll tell you that the title work's already been done. That's why we want to use this particular attorney. And if your closing attorney has lower rates, you can send them a rate sheet and say, this is why I want to use my closing attorney. I'm paying closing costs and their rates are cheaper. And usually they won't balk about it or squawk about it. I did have an agent tell me that he was not coming all the way to Stockbridge to close with my attorney. I said, then you won't be buying this house. And of course, he decided to go with what I said because his client wanted the house. I wanted to close with my attorney because they never make a mistake. They always take care of business. They are the best and smoothest closing attorney I've ever used. We have several that we use for our brokerage that have offices all over Atlanta. Sometimes it's for the convenience of the client. Sometimes it's, but you want to make sure that you're going to use a closing attorney way more than your clients are. They're going to trust your judgment. If you say, hey, I've used this attorney, they're really, really good. This is who we're going to use. Are you good with that? And they say yes. Same thing with the inspector. You want inspectors that aren't going to kill the deal, but they are going to be thorough.
Or charge you a fortune.
And not charge a fortune. So, and again, you're going to use an inspector more often than they are, so they're going to trust your judgment on that. You have to have a good list of affiliates that you can recommend to your clients, because that makes you the subject matter expert. And because you are, they want to use you again. They'll trust you more because you already have the people. We call it, I got a guy. If they ask you about something, oh yeah, I got a guy that does cement. I got a guy that does landscaping. I got a guy that does contracting. And they'll call you out of the blue, even after they bought their home. And that's what you're looking for them to trust you enough to continue to use you.
Amy, the agent we all know and love. Amy puts it in her package, her presentation package when she's meeting with the buyer for the first time. She puts in there a list of vendors, pest control, all these people that we actually know and deal with on a regular basis. And so it's good that you know them.
Really quick, you have an online question, which was the appraisal value of reno. Is it the before value or after value?
After value. It's gonna be after value, after the renovation stuff. Well, you're gonna have a before and then you're gonna have a final, and then
Right.
I don't know if they'll change every month.
Anything on the green thing?
No, you got done with the attorney, but your personal documentation is very important. When I ask people, I'm very specific in my initial email to them. I say, this is what I need. I've gotta have most recent 1 month pay stubs. If it's 1, 2, 3, or 4, I need one current month. On tax returns, I don't need tax returns unless they're self-employed. If they're self-employed, we have to have them. All I want is W-2s. The people send me, instead of sending me a W-2, they send me the tax. I said, I don't want your tax returns. All that does is open up, because little Johnny may have a lawn mowing business. There's a Schedule C in there with a $10,000 loss. That's the last thing I need. Because I don't need to be taking no money away. I need all that I can get to qualify. So I don't want to see tax returns. I don't even look at them. Somebody sends it to me. I just throw them out because I don't want to know and I don't want to commit fraud. So anyway, the bank statements, you gotta have 2 months most recent. It's checking, savings, and if they're using a 401k for down payment, then you got to have the most recent 1 month statement from your 401k. Whether it be Charles Schwab, whatever it's in, Fidelity, showing that you've got the money to pull out of there. And then when they start to get the money, when they go to pull the money out of the 401k, you've got to see the paperwork. Like, I need to see the transactional stuff that you've got. I need to see what you're taking out, what you got to pay back. Do you have to pay it back? Then they have to have terms and conditions of the 401k. Are you able to take money from your 401k? If you can, what are the stipulations? So they have to have terms and conditions as well. Discuss your goals with a mortgage consultant. Complete a mortgage loan application. They can do that very easily. I've got a QR code and I've got my own, I have a web page with my application that goes straight to it. And it takes about 5 or 10 minutes to do that application. It's very, very quick. Submit all necessary documentation requested. And if you qualify, you receive a pre-approval commitment letter. Go shopping, let Sharon negotiate on your behalf and handle all the details. Make an offer on a home, review paperwork, and especially the loan estimate. Because that's telling you what you're borrowing, it's telling you what your interest rate is, it's telling you what your taxes and insurance are gonna be, and it tells you your total payment. And on the flip side of that, it's gonna tell you what it's cost to do the loan. If you've got to pay points, which we've already talked about if you do. Review paperwork, and that's basically it. That's where you don't run into the problem at the 9th hour going, I didn't know about this. Well, if you looked at that, you do.
Did you say, 1 month or 2 months based on?
1 month.
Based on-
1 month most recent, whether it's 1, 2, 3, or 4, gotta have whatever the 1 month is.
Pretty sure variable income would be also if they get salary plus commission, right?
You remember, you can't use commission unless they've been paid in 2 years.
Okay.
So Sharon, how often do you have a situation where you have the pre-approval letter?
Mhm.
The agent writes an offer that that's asking for no closing costs to be paid by the seller.
Mhm.
And that the fact that they didn't get closing costs knocks the person out of being eligible for that loan. Is that something that we should, as an agent, should we talk to our loan officer to say, this is the type of offer we're planning to make on this particular property? Are these numbers good for our client?
Yeah, that's a conversation we have to have in the beginning, because we have to know how much money they have to work with, whether it's down payment and closing costs, or if they need a down payment assistance, for the closing cost or a down payment. I mean, because sometimes they've got the down payment, they just don't have the closing costs. So therefore, you can do a down payment assistance for the closing cost. What if they don't pay, if they're not gonna pay you?
In the seller's concessions too only cover, they don't cover the down payment for them, they just cover like the closing costs for like the tax, not the taxes. but-
Usually it's just a closing cost, to be honest with you. I mean, there's not really enough money there for anything but the down payment, because on most of the down payment assistance, it's like 3.5%, like on the. Or for the 100% FHA, I've got it's 3.5%, they'll do up to that. Genoa will do 100% at 3.5% or either 5%. They'll give to you in closing costs and down payment, depending on, what kind of rate you want. The 5's gonna be more.
So it's happened plenty of times, right, where the seller's been paying so much concessions, they got the down payment assistance, and they're probably coming little to no money for the
Right.
closing table.
Right. And then USDA is 100%, so, if the seller can pay the closing costs, that's great. The other plan B you can have is if the appraisal comes in higher. which I don't see that very often, but sometimes it does. And if it does, we can actually get an amendment from the agent, from y'all, saying that the sellers agreed, if it comes in 5,000 more, that the sellers agreed to pay 5,000 in closing costs. And you're actually paying it yourself.
Kind of inflating the
It
loan,
is.
right? And
The
then that
buyer,
way
the
they
buyer's
can-
actually paying it,
Right.
to be honest with you. But it shows the seller paying them so that they can close the loan.
Right,
Yep.
Yeah.
I've got a flyer that I'm getting made. It's so funny. It's called the 10 Commandments of Buying a Home. It's hilarious, but because I hand it out to agents all the time and they have it to give to their borrowers because it tells them everything they cannot do. I don't care how many times I say it, they're not listening. They'll go to a boat show. Sharon, I'm at the boat show. Can I buy a boat? No, you cannot. You will blow the deal slap out of the water. No, you cannot. So what to do? Get your mortgage commitment letter. Work with Sharon to negotiate purchase price terms, seller concessions. Well, that ain't Sharon. That's y'all, because y'all gonna do all that. I don't do with the seller concessions. Get an engineer's report on the home if one is needed. You don't have to just go get one. Keep your finances intact, no changes. Don't go spend all the money you made off selling something and you ain't got no money. Keep focused on your closing date and communicate constantly. What not to do is do not purchase, no major purchases. No boat, no plane, no house, no nothing. No car, don't co-sign with nobody to get a car, nothing, because it's gonna go against your net income ratios. Do not close out any credit cards. Again, don't ever do that, ever, because it will drop your rate bad. Your scores. Do not change jobs. Lord, I've had them the day before closing. Oh, they didn't work here anymore. You do a verbal, because you have to do a verbal 10 hours or 78 hours before the closing. You go down and sign. Well, they're no longer employee here. I'm going. You call the borrower. What are you doing? Why are you not working there anymore? Oh, I got another job. I start in a month. I went, well, you won't close for another month then. It's over with. We won't be closing tomorrow. Well, I've got a job. I said, not now, you know. So, I mean, don't ever change jobs in the middle of a loan. Refrain from any, requiring your credit to be run. Do not open any new account. Exactly. You don't want nobody to touch your credit, period. Continue to make timely and accurate payments on all debt, and it'll keep the scores where they need to be, and you won't have any issues.
Is it where like if they're under contract and they already got their offer in, they already got their interest rates, and now, let's say 48 hours before it closes, interest rates have dropped now, and now they want you to redo it so that way they could get a better rate?
You have one free float down. You're entitled to one free float down. If the rate drops, half a point. It has to drop a half a point before they'll let you change it. That's the only way they'll do it.
Is that something that you would call the buyer and let them know is something as far as like, if you've seen it pop up and say, hey, you may be even better than what
Yes.
you were before?
Yes,
Do that,
we
okay.
had that conversation. As soon as the underwriters got it in for a final and those rates drops 50 points or below,
Mhm.
yeah, we'll talk about it.
Has that ever affected someone getting the loan though, if that did change, like with the rate fixing itself, or did they just keep whatever they had going into the offer?
Most people keep what they had. Most people just go, Sharon, I don't want to do that because I don't want to close on time. I need to move in my house. And half of a point is not a huge difference. Unless it made a $300 or $400 a month difference, I probably wouldn't do it. But I have to give them that, option. I have to tell them it's there if they want it.
How much further would it push the closing?
Depending on let's just say the closing was tomorrow, we've already sent out the CD, because you have to do this again. The government's made our lives miserable. 3 days prior to, then it's probably gonna kick it out 7 days.
7 days for half a point.
Mhm.
And it depends on the price of the house as to whether that dollar amount makes sense or is worth it.
And it's gonna cost you. You can extend that. What if you have to extend the rate? What if it's a purchase and your rate expires tomorrow?
Right.
You have to pay to extend the rate. So is it worth that?
Much is that?
Who knows? Depends on the day in the market.
And typically too, for every rate that like raises up, I'm gonna go from a 6 to a 7, it's 10% buying power. So if it's a $200,000 house, and I went from a 6 to a 7, now I've lost with 10% of 200,000, 20,000, now it's 180,000 buying power that I have to keep my mortgage payment the same.
It's very true.
Hmm.
I had, before the rate started going up, I had 16 active buyers that were qualified at a 4%, 3.5-4% rate. And the rate just went overnight, really over the course of 3 weeks. And they hadn't found a house yet, been looking 6 months and couldn't find one. Well, half of those couldn't find it.
Right. 'Cause it could be 20, two interest rates could be, $20,000-$40,000.
Well, about 300, just say a $350,000 house, it could be the difference in $300-$400 a month.
That's very true.
That's a lot of money.
And I had that happen back in, I believe it was in 22 when those rates kind of adjusted themselves. And then I had a lot of buyers who were like, yeah, we're looking at this, and it was an overnight thing where I was like, okay, now they may not be ready, or we definitely have to look in a different area because it's what they're approved for.
Right, right.
So those rates are important.
They are, and if they'll come down, I'm hoping and praying they'll come down. They're telling us by the summer. Of course, they told us first quarter last year, nothing ever happened. They went up. They're saying they're gonna come down, and it's an election year. During an election year, they always go down. So who knows what's gonna happen, but it's not gonna be before June because the feds didn't cut any rates or anything when they met. So, and the federal rate, the prime rate had everything to do with the long-term rate, but it does trickle down to it eventually.
What questions you guys have for Sharon?
I think you've been great though, honestly. You've answered a lot of mine as well.
You're welcome, you're welcome. I'm happy to help anyway. If you need to ask a question, if you just need to ask anything, I'm happy to help.
Well,
My phone's always on after 5 and it's on weekends and holidays.
A lot of this too is I'm just, from doing business in Kentucky, I'm trying to get that reassurance that all the stuff that I was doing back home, because the only reason I know half of this stuff is I've had these deals happen and play out in front of me. And now I just want to make sure that I can still take those, steps appropriately the way I was doing before.
Well, those, I'm sure things are different, and I know they are for insurance, so I'm sure they are for mortgage rates, mortgage guidelines too for different states.
You guys definitely have different down payment programs. Like one of the things I would say, as far as I know, I don't believe Kentucky, I know anything that they get, if they got anything from a down payment assistance, it's like a second mortgage, they have to pay it back. I think recently you had said that there is some instances, right, where they can get the second, they can get help with that down payment and not have to pay it back.
In some instances, yeah, as long as you stay in the house for 5 years,
And that's nice too. A lot of folks don't know.
you don't have to pay it. As long as you've been in the house, you stayed at 5 years, you don't have to. But there's a lot of them, if you go off of it, refinance, if you go off the title, refinance it or sell it, you got to pay it back.
Oh, yeah, and I've seen it happen where they go to sell their house in 2 or 3 years and then they have to still pay that second mortgage. And now, of course, if it was already barely enough to get them out of it in the first place, well, then now we have to go back and say, okay, is the appraisal and everything else gonna line up for it to,
I got a call from a guy the other day, he's blind actually, and he got a disabilities down payment assistance at $20,000. Well, the property's not worth. I don't know how to do it. I don't know how I'll be able to pay it back because the property's probably not worth 80.
Right.
So, and he owes, 70 on it. You gotta pay back that 20 if you have to sell it.
But you can't refinance with that second mortgage out.
You can't do what?
Refinance on the first mortgage with that second down payment assistance.
No. If it's forgivable and you've lived in the house 5 years plus, you could just refinance it and do away with it. But if it's not been 5 years, then you'll have to pay that back. You'll have to refinance to get enough money in order to pay that back and get what you need equity wise out of it is what you need.
So they will allow you to refinance with that second mortgage still outstanding, or you gotta pay it off first?
It has to be paid off.
or forgiven, right?
You're right. Yeah, it has to be paid off or forgiven. I think Invest Atlanta's got a $20,000 one. For police officers, school teachers, and nurses. Stop, yeah.
First responders and heroes.
Yeah.
Pretty much.
And
You guys-
we have doctor loans where they're 100%, so, and they actually calculate the income because they got so many student loans. It's a different type of calculation. It's not doing like I normally would do it. So we have like a calculation worksheet that we do for doctor loans, and it's 100%.
When you say doctor, you mean
Like
pretty much broad, right? Like
medical doctor, veterinary nurses.
I'm hoping that.
So lawyers aren't in that same type of.
Mm. I've never heard of a lawyer's loan. They should get one though.
Cause you know.
If there's anybody who shouldn't get a loan, it's a lawyer.
I feel like you should get, your lawyer should have a loan like that too.
They probably pay as much money to go to school as doctors do.
Pharmacists need one too.
Yeah.
There's probably loans out there for pharmacists though, I'm sure. I mean, there's probably some where they're tying in, but I mean, because they have so much debt.
Bing wanted to know if you could give some scenarios of how agents have killed the deal by not understanding the loan programs and making offers that don't work with the loan programs. So like maybe somebody said that they were buying USDA and I don't know, I didn't quite understand how you had experience with, agents who didn't understand the loan program and wrote the offer that killed the deal.
I really don't care,
Not really.
because
So-
I talked to them.
So it's like hugely important
It is.
that you have communication with the loan officer. They're not gonna share the person's intimate, financial details.
No.
But they are gonna tell you, you can or can't do this, that, or the other. Or this is how you can write the loan. They cannot bring this dollar amount, they can't pay all their own closing costs. They're gonna need some help with it. I've never had them tell me the exact amount, but they've always told me they're gonna need some help with that, the closing cost.
Yeah, always.
Yes,
I have a possible example that would be like, if they have an FHA loan. FHA appraisals have very stringent, things they look for, like you can't have any healing pain or broken windows.
That's correct.
So like, if your buyer is looking at a house that needs a lot of work and there's like broken windows and whatnot. You might have to have that conversation like, okay, I know you like this house, but it's not gonna pass.
See if it'll qualify for 203B.
I don't even know what that is.
It'll give you up to $10,000 in money for repairs. So good Lord, when the foreclosure boom hit, I did so many of those. It used to be only 5,000. Now they bumped it up to 10,000. So if you've got peeling paint, if you've got something you know is not gonna cost over $10,000, then the 203B is the one to go with, and you can still close on the house.
Is that a loan? Is it forgiven? What is that?
Oh, 203, it's 203B is a for FHA renovation.
Just kind of to reiterate what she had said, one thing that I had ran into is also, and I had made it a habit, on forward, is to check that about the house, with the agent, they're like, hey, this is an FHA loan, is this even gonna go FHA? And usually they've already talked to their seller to see if they're gonna even do any work to it, or if they're gonna sell it as is. If they're gonna sell it as is, and you go in there and you can kind of see it maybe be falling apart,
Mhm.
then you kind of already have an idea as far as saying, okay, this isn't gonna go FHA. And if they really want the house, can they get it approved for a different loan that would go so they could get?
Well, that's when you gotta have a conversation with the seller, the listing agent, and say, hey, these things have gotta be done, it's on the appraisal, what are we gonna do? Is the seller willing to fix it? Are they willing to, do the repairs? What are you going to do? Because otherwise, it's not gonna go. So, and then your only option is a 203B. You could do 203K if there's a ton of work's gotta be done. You could do one of those, but Lord, they're a pain in the behind. 203B is good. I mean, it's not hard to do it all, and they close in 30 days.
On the 203K, you want, to talk about the difference between the threshold,
Yeah, what?
the threshold on the 203K?
Well, there's a limited 203K, it'll go at 35,000, but then there's not a limited 203K, it'll go higher than that. And I've never done anything but a limited one. But, you can almost rebuild the house, almost like a construction loan,
Yeah. And that's
basically.
because, like, for example, Old Fourth Ward, when that was bought back in the days, it was maybe $60,000-$70,000. This are three bedroom, two bath, ranch homes, nothing special. They're worth about 400 right now. So if you have someone that's, really love their house, but want to get some renovation done, that's one way doing it.
Yeah, I mean, it's
Cash
a
out.
brand new house when they walk in it, basically.
Yeah. So. But-
Yeah, there's all kind of stuff out there, y'all, all kind of stuff to fit every kind of situation.
And the thing for Sharon is that, we want you guys to be educated enough to where you can guide your clients. But you should not be an expert in mortgage. Stay in your lane. And I promise you, because just like I mentioned last week, you have a FHA product. And it's like having children the same last name, but they all act differently. And each one of these FHA products, because your buyer has special needs, your buyer has the money, and your buyer may have neither, okay? So it's a hard case sometimes, and sometimes it can be an easy case with the guidance of Sharon. Sharon's job is to help your client to see what's the best fit. Because what happened is, we had an incident where the lender was told ABC, okay? During that process, based on the information from the buyer, Sharon or another lender picked a product that fits that ABC. And what happened throughout the process, and you know, the agent was really good, do their due diligence, talk to the lender, yada, yada, yada. While during the process, once the documents, you know, like she said, pre-approval, meaning they collect some documentation, okay? So it's a preliminary documentation. Once the buyer signs the contract, then they will do the detailed nitty-gritty finding. So what happened during that process, they found the buyer had a side gig. And that side gig basically put their income limit for this particular DPA loan, or whatever loan it was, over the limit. And now we gotta scratch everything and restart and see what other programs available for this buyer based on their needs. Now, this particular buyer have money, okay? They just don't wanna give it up, which I understand, okay? Nothing wrong with that. If we can get DPA program, I'm all about it, because at the end of the day, her job is to make sure your buyer comes with a minimum amount of money, the best credit rating, and also, you know, based on their situation, what their desired wants are, okay? But that all has to fit within a limitation of the program. Okay, just like Alan mentioned in prior class, you know, each DPA and different stuff has its own little string attached. So they kind of pull you around a little bit, so, but anyway, and the other thing is, y'all don't assume anything when it comes to, you think the seller, because I spoke with you and you represent the seller, and you said, yeah, the seller's okay with this. Okay? I'm typing up the amendment and I sent it over and I'm waiting on you. And then like 12 hours later, I'm like, hey, what's up? You told me that we're good to go on this. Well, the seller changed her mind. Okay, and what happened is in the meanwhile, while you type the amendment, you call Sharon and say, hey, Sharon, guess what? I got this pushed through. Will you change the loan? Don't do that, y'all, because when you do that, it goes to a different process. It goes down to another rabbit hole. And
Yeah, it
what,
starts over.
and so, yeah, it goes down that rabbit hole. And what happened is that you may not be able to meet your financing contingency. The appraisal shouldn't always meet, just because you should start appraisal at some point, right? But the financing may not. And you may put your client at disadvantage. So before you tell the lender it's okay to change the loan type, make sure you have that amendment signed first. Yes, sir.
Do you go ahead, like, if you know it's gonna be an FHA loan, you go into this house and you know, he's like, hey, we'll fix what we need, right? But you don't wanna wait to do the amendment and then go through the process. Do you write up those special steps in the offer letter saying, hey, we want all these things fixed in order for us to
Okay,
continue?
that's a little, so just so you know, if you put all these repair in the purchase and sale, guess what you essentially have done?
You made a mess.
You flag the appraiser to make sure these things are done.
And he'll do it subject to, not
Uh-huh.
as is.
Yeah, and so what happened is that the appraiser's gonna say, these were part of the agreement, it should be done. And what happened if you have a contractor that's delayed? Now you gotta get appraiser go back out for reinspection.
More money, yeah.
Right, on your buyer, okay? So don't do that. I would rather you do amendments first than try to create, because you want your contract as clean as possible, right? You know, no agent would like to see you come off like 15 repairs, like, no, thank you, appreciate you. I'll see you around, you know? But especially when it was seller's market, nobody was taking that. Matter of fact, no one is taking any contingencies if they can get away with it. I mean, I remember during that time, I was writing on the average 15 offers. I got really good writing contracts. 15 offers before one stick. Just because there's certain seller that is able to do based on their needs and desire and wants and timeline. Because back in that day, everybody was paying a premium for the timeline.
What is that thing y'all do? Is an amendment to address concerns? I don't wanna see that. Yeah, I do not wanna see that in the contract. Y'all keep that to yourselves. And that's, I guess that's a legal way for you to make sure stuff gets done.
Yeah, and with the amendment to address concern, I will have to caution you, if you don't have a stipulation in there to where you outline if the seller doesn't do what they're required to do, that there's a consequences. Because what happened is, oh, wow, okay. I'll just say, and this is actually part of the second portion of relaunch. Is that when you don't put a stipulation like that, just because the seller did not do the repair, does not give you buyer the right not to close. So if you buyer don't close on time, guess who's defaulting? The buyer.
Right.
So just make sure you guys, when you are uncertain of certain thing, consult your broker because they're the one who holds your E&O. And your client's the one's gonna look at you and your broker and say, hey, you didn't protect me. You are the professionals in the industry. I'm a buyer. I'm just a public consumer. And you'll be amazed how sometimes that turns around on you really quick. So, any other question online, Mark? Was there anybody online?
It's not letting me.
Y'all, anytime I told y'all I don't want tax returns, I don't need them for, if they're gonna go the normal way without down payment assistance. Down payment assistance, I have to have 2 years tax returns, most recent, because it's income based. But otherwise, I don't want any. Cause that just opens up a can of worms.
Like, to explain that on the special step. I've never done that. I've always amended it, but when she said that, I was kind of like, would it be better to do that ahead of time?
No.
But now that I know that.
No, cause that appraisal, he's gonna say, hey, is this project subject to this appraised value?
Right.
Because this has to be done.
Right.
We had one that closed that had it was an FHA and, the out garage, what was the out, it was outside, it wasn't on the house. It was outside on the, shop, the garage or something,
Oh,
and
yeah.
there was some
That was
peeling
one of
paint,
mine.
peeling paint. And it was on the very bottom of the bottom of the garage, outside, not inside, outside. Do you know it was subject to getting that fixed, and what was on the outbuilding, it's not even got.
It was a detached garage that was used for storage, not really anything to write home about. So, but because it was part of the property, it was the appraiser deemed it, said it needs to be in a good condition. So what we did, we just basically cut off the bottom portion of that skirt of that garage and put a piece of wood. Paint it, we're done. So it's an easy, relative easy fix, but it's still time consuming from a seller. So,
Now, I can tell you, I've had deals like VA loans, and the VA appraiser will go out there, and he'll say there's water spots on the ceiling, it's brown up there, there's a piece of carpet missing that's this big, little bitty hole in the bedroom, this big, no lie, it's not even an inch wide, and something else, stucco need to be repaired on the front door, and they said, subject to this, we were supposed to close in 2 days. My husband, God love his heart, I drove him to that house. He said, is this even legal, Sharon? I said, I'll ask for forgiveness. I don't know if it's legal or not. He went, he's a builder. So he went in there and he said, I don't think this is legal. I said, just come on, I got the key. The agent gave me the key. So we went in, we took kilts and kilts that ceiling. It ain't no brown no more. And he went in the closet and pulled the carpet out from under the wall. And it's perfectly brand new looking in this nasty, dirty carpet and put that little piece, glued that piece on that top of that carpet. And he fixed the stucco. I said, okay, we're done. He goes, Sharon, I'm not doing this anymore. I said, yeah, you are. You gotta get the ox out of the ditch. That's what we're doing. These people gonna close on their house. They got nowhere to go and they got kids. So yes, we are doing it. So he was saying, we're gonna go to jail. I just know they were gonna get us. I said, I've got the key.
so the thing is that if the appraiser approves it, then we're good. Not say, unless the appraiser says it has to be a licensed professional, okay? 9 out of 10, a handyman, as long as the project is done and it's not a safety issue. So the appraiser's only worried about safety, not necessarily the cosmetic. Okay, and that's the difference between home inspection and appraisal required repairs.
It just depends on the appraiser you get. It doesn't have it. I'm gonna tell you something. There's all kinds of them out there. They some sit in the car and look at the house and leave. And give you a low appraised value. There's some that'll go through it like a fine tooth comb and call everything out. And there's some in there that won't even hardly look at nothing. They take the pictures from the MLS. That's where from the appraisal.
Not with the FHA. They have.
Oh, no, they going out there. But hey, it's bad of them too.
No,
It's bad.
actually, during downturn market, believe it or not, we have what we call desktop appraisal for FHA. And that's all they do. They pull the MLS pictures and everything else. That, and then sometimes during the COVID too, during the COVID period, because everybody was so afraid of getting sick. That was actually allowed by the, Fannie Mae, Freddie Mac.
It was, yeah. They changed some laws due to COVID, or changed some guidelines. Now they back to normal. So
Yeah.
there were no flipping rule either back then
Yeah, that's true. So,
for FHA.
if you ever buy a property that's a flipping property, y'all know the guideline behind that? Okay, so if you are an investor and you just bought this house back in November 1st. And let's say you finish your rehab on December 31st, 2 months, okay? Good job, by the way. So you put this house on the market, let's say you get a contract on January the 2nd. Okay, and it's an FHA loan. Can you take that contract?
It has to be, you can't add that. I can't do an application on that property for that loan until the 91st day.
Right. So you can do what I call, go ahead and do a purchase and sale. To secure your buyer's ability to purchase that home. Terminate it and simultaneously rewrite it with a new date.
New app date.
Yeah.
I've had that happen before.
Because what you wanna do is secure your buyer for that home, right? Because otherwise somebody may come along and say, I got a conventional loan, we don't need the 91 day. But let's say your offer is much better than conventional. You know, from a seller perspective, they're willing to give us a $5,000. Hey, y'all, $5,000 is a lot of money for 30 days. I mean, tell me where you're gonna get that interest from the bank. Seriously. So some seller may wait until the 91 days. So that's how you do it. By knowing that you gotta terminate and rewrite it.
Don't you listen to the MLS? It's a flip. It's got,
Well,
no, they say no FHA.
Well, they can't really say no FHA. Technically, the house is eligible for FHA. You just gotta wait.
Mhm.
Right.
Wait that time period.
I've seen
Because
them,
Do you have
I've
to
seen them,
disclose that?
Hmm?
Would you need to, if it's posted in the,
private remarks.
okay.
I will put,
I've
FHA acceptable, but we cannot go in there. But a lot of times seller may be motivated to get conventional first. And so therefore they go ahead and put the house on the market. I'm
a
sorry.
lot of
Mark.
times what they'll put in the private remarks is, this property is FHA eligible on this date. And that's what that means. You can't do it until then. We had a question in the chat. It was Kimberly. Kimberly, yes, I can send you my list of inspectors that I use. You'd have to email me though. At mbre62@gmail.com. That's MB for Mark Brown, real estate, RE62@gmail.com. Reginald, what's my email address?
MBRE62.
MBRE62@gmail.com. All right, any other questions about inspectors or contractors or anything like that? We got 6 minutes before we take our break, so we have to have 6 minutes.
Actually, well, if you want to, we can take break earlier online if you want. We'll resume in 15 minutes. So we're gonna put ourselves in mute in just a few seconds.
Yes, Kimberly, that's it.
All right, was there anything else online? Questions? All right, online, if you don't mind, go ahead, put your name, number, license number, email address, telephone number on chat box, and we can register that you were awake, pay attention. These people can't hide, so here. So anyways, that way we can register you for your CE.
Hey, y'all, would it help y'all if I sent y'all a document checklist? For every situation, like for a buyer that's W-2, buyers that are 1099, buyers that are elderly that are gonna do like, income, the depletion of assets, they've got that in there, and it's for self-employed, but it tells you pretty much what you gotta have.
Yes.
For that, it's usually good to have with you when you go to see your clients for the first time and have that initial meeting with them. It's good to have it. I've got another one I'll send to y'all, because I don't think I've given y'all these. I don't think y'all have this. It's a loan comparison, and it's a time frame for when you can buy after a bankruptcy, or you can buy after a foreclosure and short sale, and just what each program guideline is on that, and that'll help you with the credit scores too.
And
So I'll get those
and your
down.
10 Commandments would be good too.
I've got to send you that,
Yeah.
it's hilarious, like, thou shalt not buy a car, thou shalt not open accounts, thou shalt not go quit your job, it's hilarious.
Okay, Sharon. So Kimberly says, can you send it to them as well?
Yes, absolutely.
Okay, so yes, Kimberly, everybody online will get it as well. If you registered in the chat, then you'll get it.
And we got your email.
Yep. Done, answer live and done. Okay, y'all, so what did it say, 10 or 15 minutes for this break? 15 minutes for this break, so we'll be back at 10 after. Or 12 after,
Yeah, we got lunch.
12 minutes after 11, okay?
Ready.
Be worried about that.
Here.
That's well.
All right, for those of you guys who are online, please go ahead, type your name, your information on the chat box. And I'll go ahead, just give me 5 seconds, I'll pull the file up.
Oh, it's for me, thank you.
Okay, so what do you see here is actually, how many of y'all seen the auto statement already? Okay, so this portion is actually about take me a closing, okay? You wonder why sometimes attorney asks for certain things, there's a good reason for y'all. They don't do it out of fun, because they don't have time for that, well, they do have time for fun, but they don't do it just to pester you. So what I'm gonna do, when you go to a closing attorney's office, one thing you have to double check, make sure your numbers are right. 9 out of 10, you should have a preliminary ALTA statement. This is what we call ALTA statement. Is a statement showing both sides of transactions and where the number comes in and where the number goes out. So, for example, let's go ahead and go down to the seller side because it's pretty easy. Okay, it should be on your right-hand side right here. So if you look at it, your purchase price $146,500. And then the seller typically pays the closing costs. And that number $87.90 is derived from the second page, and we'll go there in a minute. And of course, the seller has a payoff at $137,000 and the payoff fee, and also affidavit that the attorney actually had to do an affidavit on this to correct the deed, so there was a $350 charge. This is hard. I'm trying to figure out how to do this without breaking my neck. So the total cost, reduction for sale is $146,000. And the gross, sale price $146,000. So the seller was only walking away with this one's $225,000, $224. It's very minimal. This is an older statement, of course, but I just want to show you guys how this works right here. Any questions so far? I'm gonna go down the second page. So this is where agents, y'all have to pay attention to this, all right? Because right here, you need to make sure the name to the brokerage is correct. Because some of you guys have brokerages that has multiple franchise. And with the multiple franchise, if the name is spelled incorrectly, guess what you get to do? You get to go back to the attorney's office and get a correct check. Because your broker may not be able to cash that check on your behalf. All right, so, and also, should you not calculate this every time? Okay, because like, you know, we're in people business. Is it usual for them to make mistake? No. But if they get ton of transaction in, it's a last minute thing, come on, let's go. Then they may make mistakes. So you always want to make sure your money's right, okay? So this is why you need to look at here. And if it was a loan where there's costs, it'll be right here, okay? So the seller pays title examination and also the attorney fees. And also, let me just let you know, as a seller, there's no other fee in here, it's all buyers. So let me just go back to the buyers on this form here. on the first page. So any question on the seller part? Sell is very easy, y'all. Okay. If there's any concession to be made, it'll be right in here. Okay, whatever that concession is, like closing cost, home warranty, or anything like that. So make sure if you have home warranty, closing costs, or any item that's a deduction from the seller when you represent the buyer, make sure it's reflected on the seller side. Okay, it should be a deduction from the seller, but a credit to the buyer. Okay, and so let's move on to the buyers. Now you represent the buyer. The settlement charge right here, 1748.50, is actually from the second page, and I'll show you where that number came from. This is a rush title fee, so they charge additional $250. And if there was any earnest money deposit, it'll be right here. Okay, so you have a gross amount plus a charge to the buyer, plus any expenses that was incurred by the buyer's behalf, less all these expenses here, if there's any. And you'll see how much cash from borrower needs to be. Okay, pretty simple, right? All right, so on the second page right here, you'll see all, if this was a loan, you will have a bunch of fees right here. And that number at the end of the day has to add up to this number right here. Remember I told you guys earlier? That was on the second page. So there it is. Okay, and same thing here for the seller. Any question on auto statement? It's pretty simple, straightforward. Okay, all right, cool. And if you guys are rebating your client, like home warranty or anything like that, let's say your commission is $5,000 and the rebate's $500. What should your commission look like when you receive a check? Okay. So if it's different from what you projected to be, please raise your concern with the closing attorney before you walk out. Do it discreetly because you don't want to cause any disruption or any negatives. Just say, hey, you know, Bill, can I see you for 1 second? I have a quick question for you. That's all you gotta do. And they'll step out. Okay. And anyways. Now, this is a closing disclosure where the lender went over earlier. It's basically all the loan product and what the cost, your monthly principal. This should be part of your buyer's package at closing. Your monthly principal interest, not just a principal interest, that's not your hazardous insurance or your prepaid, okay? What type of loan it is, here's the mortgage insurance right here, 101. The escrow is total $235. And so your estimated monthly payment now is $1182 versus just the principal and taxes. See that? Okay. All right, closing costs. You know, your buyer will know what exactly their closing cost is as part of the disclosure and how much cash they need to close if they're getting a loan. Okay. Any questions? And honestly, once again, I just want y'all to look at these numbers, be familiar with it. It's not your job to be an expert on these things. If your client has questions, say, I don't know where these numbers are coming from. Say, call Sharon. Seriously, because she's a lender, she should be able to walk you through and trace back everything that's there. Okay. Any questions? And here's just a breakdown of all the costs in reference to the loan. Appraisal, FHA, MIP, mortgage insurance premium, and there's a $10 Georgia residential loan fee to network funding. It just depends on the servicer. Sometimes they charge, sometimes they don't. Anyways, that's a cost for the borrower to obtain that loan right there.
I mean, is there any way, like, is there any way to get what these fees would be before you even? So is there a way to?
The attorney fees, yes.
Okay, the lender's fees are pretty standard across the board.
Lender fees standard according to their mortgage brokers, just like real estate brokers. Your desk fee is very straightforward, right? With the respective brokerage. Same thing as mortgage brokers who assign these loans, that they have certain fees that they charge, and that's their standard. So if you use one lender compared to the other, there may be some discrepancies.
A little bit, but with the attorney's fees, can they be like wide ranging or are they all pretty close?
They're pretty much, once somebody moves their marker, all the other attorney looks at it and sees it, they'll move their marker too. So can you negotiate with the attorney? If it's an easy cash deal, typically cash closing are much smaller fee than a regular loan product, because a loan product require more work on their back end in reference to balancing the books and making sure everything is done properly according to the lender's direction. Okay, and sometimes lender charge certain fees that the attorney has to reflect.
But I mean, let me ask you, usually the lender will send you like, right before you close, they'll send you like a little.
So the CD is called closing disclosure, okay? By federal law, the buyer has to have it 3 days prior to closing. Okay, they have the opportunity to review before they let the money go. Okay, so this is where if your buyer's confused about where are these numbers coming from, and I tell you, there will be buyers that calls you, Sharon didn't explain anything, while the buyer never pick up the phone. Okay. I thought she said, that's what you get, had temporary amnesia sometime, I'm sorry, but they do have that sometime when they think, she told me this figure, and now I'm seeing this figure. Okay, we have one loan that actually was fully approved, but the buyer thought that their monthly mortgage payment, interest and everything else was around 1,500. Well, when you add on the prepaid, the escrow, it was around 1,800. And they're like, I'm not comfortable with that. Okay, so the deal fell apart. And the buyer has a right to reject that. So just because your buyer is fully approved and funded or is approved, doesn't mean that sometimes we get that rare axe on the head at the last minute.
So will they get that deposit back?
Now the buyer loses earns money. Because normally you have passed your financing contingency already. The only thing that will stop it is appraisal if you have FHA or VA loan and it did not appraise. And the seller refused to lower the purchase price to the appraisal value. That's the only exception on that. So your closing for FHA and VA runs until the day of closing. Your appraisal. Did I say that right? Yeah, okay. All right, so anyways, but good question. This is a little older data, I can tell you right now, so that the cost may have been adjusted since then. But all these things, see all these little numbers that you see, this is where the attorney has to balance out with the lenders per line item to make sure the ALTA looks right, okay? And this should reflect, your ALTA should reflect the CD that your buyer did get. And sometimes you'll see this right here. Okay, so lender sometimes will give a discount or credit to your buyer to make the number work. Or it may be a special promotion they're doing. By the way, Sharon's doing it's funny, her boss called it coupons. I'm like, what? It's coupon. It's a $250 basically credit to your buyer toward their closing cost. So after class or those of you online, if you want to reach out to Sharon and ask her about that, please do. So you just save your client $250 on closing costs. Okay, so anyways. Let's see, any questions so far? So the original estimate versus the final number, you have to be within certain range in order for it to go through. If not, the whole entire CD has to be redone. Meaning that you may be delaying closing, but most time your lender is not willing to do that as far as delay, so they get their numbers pretty tight up front. Okay, and here is actually summary of transaction for the buyer. Here's your purchase, here's the sale of property. Your closing cost is 10,000, so that you're actually borrowing 175. You see how that works? Yeah. Okay. And your deposit is $1,000 escrow. Okay. And let's see, existing loan amount. That's what the buyer is taking a loan out, county and state taxes, so if you add this number on top, 175. Less these numbers, which is the actual loan amount on here for the buyer. The buyer has come to closing with $19,000. See how that works? Any questions? Okay, all right, cool. All right. Okay, this is pretty much a CD I want to go over, but what I want to go over, the other thing is. This is the same thing. It's just different format. I'm gonna scroll. Okay, let's talk about buyer pre-closing information. Why is the attorney needed, y'all?
To verify the identity of the person who's gonna be signing the paperwork.
Yep, and also how to record a deed. Right? So if they don't have that information, they can't record it. Is that not in your packet? Okay, y'all were looking confused, so I just wanna make sure.
Y'all got a pack?
Well, all buyer he's got one sitting right there. He just don't know it. Yeah.
My bad.
Poster.
My coaster.
Your coaster. There you go.
I need one
All
to
right.
have 'em.
So will all buyer be at closing? Yes or no? Why is that?
Say it again.
Will all buyer be at closing? Yes or no? Why did I ask that question?
Make sure all the signatures are covered in there.
Correct. And if we need to do a power attorney, first of all, it has to be approved by the lender that a power attorney can be done. Okay, not every lender approves it. Okay.
But if they're buying from another state, then
Mhm.
that's when they have a power of attorney, right?
It depends on the situation. So if you there, it doesn't matter, the New Yorkers buying here in Georgia. Okay, they don't want to travel the day of closing. Because they got packed up in New York. That's too much expense. So there are mail away available, but what happened is that the attorney would assign a notary up in New York who's authorized to witness the signatures. Okay, so when you have mail away, so this is the reason why they asked you, would the buyer be at closing? Because if it's a mail away, the attorney has to give about 2 additional days for closing. So if you're projected to close on Friday, that packet has to be out by Wednesday. Okay, because they gotta sign it, FedEx it back to the attorney. Because the attorney can't release any funding until they have original signature. Now, they'll request you to scan a copy of the document, before closing, when the buyer signs it, but until that signature is in their office, they can't disperse. So that's the reason for it, okay? All right, we need the following being pre-closing process, they need the buyer information. If it's an investment, because investments treat a little differently. If buyer's a corporation, why do they ask this question? Right, so usually with a corporation, they need to find out who's authorized to sign for the corporation. Okay, all right. Buyer must bring a valid photo ID to closing, no question asked, okay? And here's all the stuff in here. If you or your buyer special request, please let us know. So during pandemic, a lot of time you'll see seller in one room, buyer in the other room. Or if you have a transaction that was really rocky and you're the listing agent and your seller did not want to be in the same room as the buyer, you better call the attorney and say, can we have separate room? This has been a rough transaction. And vice versa, okay? You guys have the ability to do that and request that because the attorney will appreciate it if you give them a heads up before y'all walk in that room. Because they don't want a daggers throwing when he's trying to explain the alter statement and the buyer or the seller making a snide comment that's gonna set the other person off. There's just no need for that, okay? Buyer must first send the form, the buyer's fund must be in the form of wire. The reason being is that, wires is instantaneously, and once you send it, it's gone. Okay, So make sure, did Alan go over the wire and cyber fraud with you guys? Okay, good. All right, cool. So just make sure you let your buyer know to call and confirm with the attorney the account number. There's too many hackers out there. All right, so this is the buyer information. Let's go to seller. Will seller be at closing? Same thing. Do we have POA? If it's a corporation, we actually have to have the operating agreement or corporate resolution that shows the person who signed off for selling the property is authorized to do that. There's too many for all y'all, okay? So mail away, it does happen, power attorney, okay, who's gonna sign for you? You guys do realize a power attorney cannot be the agent themselves, right? Okay, conflict of interest. Okay, because let's say if you have to make a last minute decision to basically make the buyer pay $500 more or make seller receive $500 less. After his closing, the seller or the buyer look at the statement and said, why am I getting charged for $500? Or you're the POA. They said your incentive was to close because you don't get your commission until we close. Okay, never yourself, get their family member, pastor, whoever it is, I don't care. Get them to sign, okay? They're like, well, we don't have anybody in Georgia. Do you have a friend that you trust? Okay, so do that. Which one following applies? If you're single, you're married, separated, divorced, deceased owner, foreclosure, bankruptcy, the reason being, when the attorney pulls a title for a property, these things matters. Go ahead.
It's not a courtesy or dower state here, is it?
A what?
A courtesy or dower state?
Depending on the title, how is done. Because
They are in
different,
Kentucky, so like one of those situations, if we had a divorced couple, but even, or better yet, let's say he bought the house before he had gotten with this young lady, and now she had married him, and now they both still have to sign off of it, even though his name's on the title of the home and the deed and everything, she still has to sign in order for them to sell.
so divorce situation is sticky, okay? As an agent, before I even list a property, I will ask the obvious question. If you are middle of divorce, please go ahead and get your divorce attorney both agreeing, selling this house at a certain price with an agent. Because if you don't have that agreement in place, well, the divorce just got really heated. I just caught you cheating on me. I didn't have proof before, but now I do. Now I'm gonna be very vindictive. Instead of getting 50%, now I want 75% because you cheated on me. Okay, see how that goes? So you want to make sure you talk to both attorneys to make sure that there is an agreement that is separate from the divorce decree or the middle of divorce, that the property can be sold. Okay, with a set amount of dollars based on the CMA. I would suggest you, let's say the fair market value is $350. Okay, I would recommend you tell the attorney, say, let's give us some room. And say $340 is a minimum purchase price. That makes sense? Because we don't know what the market's gonna do during this time. And sometimes you don't know what the husband and wife's gonna do. Some of them just stubborn like, well, you know, I did all that work in that house. You know, and it's worth more than $340. Or three, you know what I'm saying?
Right.
And they get, so if you get both attorney agree on a set price, you're good to go.
So if you have both agreed on that set price and she find out.
Has to be in writing. It doesn't matter.
And she wants to sell.
It's in writing. So
You still ignore that and go with the sale.
move on.
Good deal.
Yeah. And you might want to be even more creative and ask that to have someone that's outside the two parties to sign off on it, a POA.
You put that in the special steps too, whenever you go to.
I don't, when I have a consultation with a seller, I ask them, I said, and I understand you're in a hard predicament and you're not in a good place right now. But if you want to sell this property, let's have somebody with an objective, clear mind. And treat it like a business, because I can tell you right now, while you go through this process, things are gonna get heated. Okay, So you get both attorney agree to have someone as a trustee or something to sign off on the paper. Once they agree on set price, it's not always that easy, y'all. Okay, so just understand as a listing agent, what hurdle you have to go through before you really can market free, so to speak, without a lot of contingency and motions. Okay,
So if they both aren't completely divorced, but they had sold their property, and let's say the husband wants to go buy a piece of land,
mhm,
and he's working with a realtor. Well, he's not technically legally unmarried yet.
mhm.
How does that work? Can he go ahead and buy the
So,
property, or does he need to get her to sign?
That's an attorney question. For me, my suggestion is don't do anything. Yeah. Or if you have it to where that you can, so the way it works, most people that have assets will do a prenup. I'm sorry, this is sound horrible. This is not the way I was raised, you're in for life. Divorce is never an option, okay? But now we have a get out of jail for free. I don't like you, see you, buddy. Okay, so, but what I'm saying is that a lot of people that have asset have prenups. And the prenup dictates how the asset's gonna be split. In Georgia, typically, if you have an asset before you were married, that asset belonged to you and your children. Let's say you had a deceased husband or whatever, okay, or you divorced the first husband, and these are your asset. When you married a second husband, that asset does not belong to him. Only what you two acquires together will belong to that set of marriage. Okay, typically. But once again, depending on what county, what judge you get, it might be a little different and your circumstances.
Is that whether or not the spouse is on the deed, it doesn't have acquiring your parent?
So as far as deeds go, to sell it, you only need the person who's on the deed to sign off on it. Okay, but that may be impeded by a divorce pending.
Mm,
Because I can put let's say Mark's on title. I'm not, we're married, okay? I won't be vindictive. I'm gonna put a list pending on Mark with a heartbeat. Which means they'll cloud the title of the property. He can't sell it without after we are done with our divorce and the judgment has been announced as far who gets what. Okay? So this is why divorce is such a huge one, y'all. And Mary, the reason we want to know, because sometimes the title, somebody said, oh, only Mark's on title, she's not, I'm not, means not. And then when we do a title search, guess what? My name's on, so what happens to the contract, y'all?
It's going.
No boy, unless you can get me to sign off on it, right? Okay, this is why as a listing agent, I'm going over this in very detail, so you guys know what question to ask. Okay, you should pull title first and see who's on the title. Okay, and if it's got both his and her name or a mother's name, but you're the heir of that deceased, okay, you need to have either a probate done on the property, because y'all know how long it takes to probate, huh?
30 days.
Thank you, but no thanks. In Fulton counties, during pandemic, we're going about 9 months, to about a year.
Oh my gosh.
Because what it is, and y'all went, oh my gosh, okay. Let's say I love my husband very much. We had a lot of fun in our years. And when I died, we had about 12 children. And what happened is that the probate has to go out to all 12 children. And some of them you may not be able to trace. And that's why it takes a longer time, because you have more complicated family structure.
Couldn't you contest it in the newspaper for 30 days and then maybe let the buyer rent?
You
until
got,
it
you
cleared?
got to know, well, that sounds very nice in theory. But what happened if the buyer decided to move in and like the house? Now you got a tenant, you got to evict them.
Hmm.
So there's a lot more remedies on that, but good question though. So this is why those are kind of a divorce, deceased, separated, Those are really touchy. Of course, if your house, they want to know if your house in bankruptcy. Because sometime when you go through bankruptcy, you're able to maintain your house if that was part of your bankruptcy. And you can technically sell it, but when you sell it, guess what happened to that proceed?
Goes to pay off your debts.
Pay off your bankruptcy trustees that are dispersed to your creditor. Okay, so this is why all these questions are being asked. Y'all like, what? That's complicated, but it does happen, y'all.
So it's happened where people have went to go sell their home, they filed bankruptcy and they thought they were getting some proceeds for their next house and they ended up just going straight to the lender.
About go to the creditors. So y'all, if your client's thinking about, I'll beat the system, well, they may not know what they're doing. And they have to get out of bankruptcy in order to sell it. So if you have a client who, and this is why I tell you guys, when you have a conversation with your clients, make sure to tell you the honest truth. Because you can't navigate it, when that, oh, by the way, we just filed bankruptcy, what, excuse me? Pull it off right now. Stop that right now. You can do it afterwards. But the problem with that, just so y'all know, if you do get a proceed from the house and you file bankruptcy immediately, they're gonna seize that asset. Okay, I'm not an attorney, I'm just telling you that what I know. They also asked if the property has mobile manufactured home attached. There's a reason for that. If you have a mobile home, if it's not the tag, what they call the tag of mobile home is not retired, it may not be considered single family home. It's actually considered personal property.
So it's converted as title, right?
So, are you a resident of Georgia? You know why they asked that question?
Taxes.
Yes. So GAR form this year has stated FIRTA is FIRTA something. Anyways, what it is a form that says if you're a non-domestic corporation, state of Georgia require attorney to withhold 12% of your proceed to be dispersed to Georgia Department of Revenue. Because the way they look at it, you came here and bought a property in state of Georgia, you don't pay taxes in Georgia. Therefore, like I'm a Georgia resident, I pay taxes, I pay, so if you are gonna if you're gonna earn income in Georgia, the Department of Revenue is gonna take a portion of that.
And that's escrowed into a closing, right? All the
Yes,
taxes.
yes, so what happened is that when you say escrow, so what happened, for example, let's say we sold it for $100,000, I'm just using round numbers. 12%, that's 12,000, right? So state of Georgia, Department of Revenue will get a fat check for $12,000 when you sell your house. Okay, that's a disadvantage being a corporation, but they know that upfront because for them, this is investment property. Okay, now some people will do what they call 1031 exchange, which is a different program, not part of this program, but that's one way to build your asset. Okay, and that we do have a class on 1031, so yeah. All right, are you filing Georgia tax return for the current year? Yes or no? Was your primary resident for at least 2 of the last 5 years? Yes or no? Why is that, y'all?
Capital gains?
Yes. How much is it capital gain for individual?
I should get a prize. I've answered
I
some
know.
questions.
Here, you want some pizza left? So how much is a capital gain for individual?
$250,000?
Correct. So individual, 250,000 exemption. Married couple is $500,000. Okay, that's why that question was asked, but you have to be a primary resident for last 2 years of the 5. Okay, you can't just buy it and decide you're gonna rent it out after a year, and that ain't gonna fly. Numbers, of course, email address, forwarding address, because you no longer own this property, so we want to know where we can send your stuff to. Okay. They have to have social security number or federal employee ID if you're an LLC. Okay. Provide tax ID. Please note, if a sale is a company, we'll need a copy of the operating agreement, bylaws, or the article of incorporation to close, because this validate you are the true corporation that can sell this property. You're the asset manager for that corporation. Is there mandatory homeowner association? Why is that, y'all?
I don't know if there's any fees if they're paying for.
And sometime listing agent and seller refuse that. I have no clue. I never lived there. I never received anything. So ignorance is not a bliss on this one, because if you don't know, you might be tagged on with more expenses at closing because you never did a HOA disclosure. Okay? All right, mortgage company, we need to know what the payoff is, because they will get a payoff letter from the mortgage company to state what your payoff in the next 30 days. Okay, and you'll know how that works. So for example, I'm selling a house for $250. I owe $100,000 on the property. The mortgage lender is going to verify at closing, the mortgage lender needs to get $100,000. Okay, so that's the payoff. And if you have line of equity, HELOC loan, or you have a second mortgage, it all needs to be included. Because not only if you don't include it, they'll find it entitled as well. Okay, so this is something that it just make life easier for the closing attorney when you have that information, because they'll do independent verification as part of their job.
They should see that though way before, like 3 days before closing, right? If there's a second.
Yes,
period.
and let me explain to you, a lot of people get upset with closing attorney. They say, well, why didn't they do this up front when I had the contract? You know what percentage contract falls through? So you're asking them to spend on the average $300 to $500 upfront, not knowing if you're gonna close or not. So the reason why closing attorney usually wait 10 days before closing date, the original projected closing date, to do what they call preliminary title search. Okay, because it's just like you, a buyer said, well, I'm gonna buy a house. And they liked it, and you went around, would you show a buyer a house without a pre-approval letter? Okay, smart, same thing for the closing attorney, because there's a lot of assets you're asking them to, and resource to dispense when we don't even know if you're moving along with this loan.
I've had it happen in Kentucky where they had a title issue, and then what the attorney did, they reached out to me and was just like, hey, we can't talk to you no longer or anything like that. You know, pretty much they didn't give me any more connection. I had to get a hold of no, I'm sorry, I was a listing agent in this.
Mhm.
Yeah, and they told me they were like, you know, so-and-so, if they're not gonna be able to close because they have this, and they wouldn't even talk to me no more. So I'm trying to get a hold of the seller, like, what's going on, you know, and I was like, oh, what? So.
Seller knows, y'all. They know. Now, denial is just not a river in Egypt, y'all. Okay, so most of the time and sometimes seller really don't know. So we had a fraudulent case where it was I know I'm going off the rail here, but the whole story of is when they went in contract with an investor, the investor used a non-guard form. It was very predatory form. Okay, at the same time, as soon as they're under contract, they put a lien on the house. So obviously seller didn't know there's a lien. Okay, investor dragged the property out for about almost 4 months and just to cancel the contract. But guess what? The lien stays on the property. Because the way that contract was written, they have vested interest. And by then, the seller hired an agent to sell their property. And it took about 2 months, you know, from day of listing to closing. Right before closing, the attorney said, did you know you had a lien on your house? The seller's like, no. Apparently this ABC corporation put a lien. They're like, that's a previous buyer that never went through with the contract. How can they do that? There is a lien in there. And in order to sell the property to the second buyer, because they were netting out about $115,000, they're like, you know what? I'm ready for that money. $5,000 it is, and took it. It's a fraud. It's a scam, y'all. There's a lot of them going out right now. So be very careful. Okay, even if you have a client say, I don't know if I need to use agent, use that example. I'm serious. And say, would you like to lose some money? Cause there's a lot of people who love to help you lose your money and your equity. Okay? All right, if there a lease on a property, why do we ask this?
So we know how much they need for payoff. Yeah.
Well, if it's a lease and there's a security deposit, right? So the seller need come out at closing without the security deposit.
Transfer to
And
the-
also rental rates per diem, per day. Okay, so a rental contract needs to be provided to the closing attorney so they can calculate all that number as well. Okay. All right, full IDs, if you're gonna, this is very standard, everybody charge about $35 for wiring fee to wire out, because everybody like wires versus a check, because if you have a large sum amount of check deposit in your bank, they'll put a 21-day hold. It's not a usual activity because of money laundry. Just want to make sure you're not doing anything shady. Any question on these forms?
Not
Okay. All right, this is part of the authorization form the seller need to sign for the closing attorney. And this is where they can get your information from your lender independently. So they can go ahead and get your payout balance. Okay, this is very standard. All right, let's talk about title policy. Online, do y'all have any questions or with the monitoring? Sorry, Bruce, I actually went over, if you look at page 1 and page 2, the $8,700 should be one of the line items, page 1, that should be the bottom line for page 2. Okay, Linda says, it depends, because if you made a repair to the house, there may should be a claim. What that is what we call a mechanical lien. That would be for a contractor. Okay, that's not necessary for an individual. So hopefully
And title insurance should cover them as mechanic liens as well, right?
well, only if it's filed after closing. That makes sense?
Mhm.
Okay, so let's talk about title insurance. The reason why we want title insurance is because we don't want to buy a house and then just before we sell it again as the new seller, that there's a lien against a house that you don't know about. Title insurance protect the person who owns it from day one to day, whenever you sell it. That period of policy doesn't go retro back all the way to the beginning of time. It only retro back to the time of possession of that seller. Okay, and most your attorney do what we call premium title policy. Because during downturn of market, this happened to one of my investors, they did a standard. Guess what? Standard does not cover boundaries. And we had a boundary issue. Uh-huh. So you want to get the enhanced or upgraded version. Most your attorney are doing that because guess what? They're not a business to deal with headaches. Okay, so they're just gonna put the premium policy for your client, and let me tell you, it's a good thing.
With the one-time payment, right?
It is a one-time payment, and y'all think about, do you guys have your iPhone protections? Insurance,
Yeah, yeah.
how much is that a month?
Like 20 bucks.
Well, 99 or something,
$12.99 a month?
I think so.
So calculate that for a year. That's about, yeah, well, 150-ish. So for a investment of $1,000, you're paying $150 a year. This is a one-time for a $300,000 home.
Very much so.
You may spend $500 or $600 for it. Would this not be well worth an investment?
Absolutely.
Okay, so, and yes, cell phone, we drop, crack, whatever, much easier at home, but still, this is where I do the comparison. A lot of people are like, why should I get that? Well, you get it because it's $350,000. The lender will always have their policy that is non-negotiable. It's the owner's policy the buyer needs to buy.
Now, I know you can buy title insurance, like you don't have to buy it at closing, you could buy it down the road, but don't they give you like some sense of like a deal if you get it at the table?
So because it's the same title policy that is insuring the lender and you, typically there's a discount for that. So if you go out, if you decide, I don't want any title policy, you have up to 30 days to buy it. But I can tell you your title policy is gonna be much more than what's reflected if you just did it at closing. Okay? So Linda, I did answer your question about that, about, the mechanical lien. That is only for contractor, not necessarily for the buyer. And normally, Linda, when a buyer is going to repair a house because appraisal require repair, as a buyer, seller's agent, I make them to do a whole harmless. Because what happened is, seller's like, I'm done. I've given you all the money I could. And if you want that little thing done, I don't have time for it. I'm out of state. So the buyer's like, you know what? That's only a $250 repair. I'll go do it. And so before the buyer can touch that house, you guys need to do an amendment to agreement to hold all party harmless. And that buyer wants to do this and don't get the loan, they have no rights. Okay, so y'all need to make sure you do that for your clients. If not, it become a lien issue and lawsuit, and you're not in business of lien and lawsuit, y'all. So,
So you're okay with them making renovations as long as it's written up in the amendment that there's not gonna be any like, nothing thrown on the realtors or the brokers or anything like that?
now, and this is why I'm telling you guys, a lot of time, and I have been disappointed in my career. In the past, when I have a relationship with an agent, we both agree, great transaction. We talked about the whole thing and worked it out verbally. I'm sending the amendment over, and I hear no response, just to find out they were with another person. Yeah, I mean, it happens. Just remember, y'all, as an agent, you cannot bind the seller or buyer into a contract without each individual respective signature. We're a conduit for those clients. We're not the authorized person to do it. Okay, so keep that in mind. All right, one of the question online was that, can you roll buyer's compensation in the loan? Well, what buyer compensation into the loan means is a less money for buyer to bring at closing. For example, if their closing cost is $20,000 and the seller decides to pay $10,000 of that, instead of bringing $20,000 closing, the buyer brings $10,000. So is it rolling to a loan? Yes, essentially, but it's really no money in and out on that. Okay. No, the buyer cannot get money, $10,000 from the seller at closing. I have had that question posed before. Can the seller just cut a check to the buyer for $10,000? No, that's mortgage fraud. That's mortgage fraud, y'all, okay? All right. Bruce, I'll go back to that page later, if you don't mind. So Linda said that was not a question of mechanical lien. You were talking about pre-marital asset and not included. Amy said, if I may repair to the house, even though it was pre-marital asset, I may have a claim on the house still. The thing is that it's proof of the burden, the proof is that you have a authorization to do it on a pre-marital asset. Okay, and that it was agreed by the other party. So anybody can claim, say, well, I did a yard work, it was crappy before, and I spent all day with my crew and it cost us $1,000. If you have no pre-arranged agreement with the person you're doing the work with, what is the evidence that says that you have the right to that claim? Usually with contractors and everybody else, they have a contract that says, we're gonna do this work and you're gonna pay us this much. Same thing, if you are gonna do that, get a contract. And I'm gonna do this on a pre-marital asset. And this is my compensation for it. Okay, so hopefully that answered your question, Linda. Good one. Okay, let's go back to here now. All right, so this is the title insurance. So you want to make sure your clients have title insurance. And this is a difference between buyer has no attorney and no policy. Buyer has owner, attorney with title options. This is standard. And Eagle owner, this is basically the premiums, okay? And here is all the liabilities and what it covers. And y'all have this page as well. So I will definitely get the premium title just because it's well worth the money investment.
Hey, I was curious, so in Kentucky, they're a real big title state. Has it ever happened to here in Georgia where, you know, like, let's say a few attorneys have ran the title and they, you know, let's say it's been 10 years and they've done sold it 2 or 3 times. They
Mhm.
still have not found a lien. And then the 4th time they get it, they actually found something pop up. Wait, that's happened.
It has happened, and what happens is that, whether or not that lien is legitimate, you know, does it trace back to the prior title policy? So that's where the title insurance has to basically fight it out. Okay? All right, limited warranty deed. So we used to have what we call general warranty deed. General warranty deed covers the property from the time of inception, meaning it can be sold 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10 times. That's the best deed you can get anywhere. Warranty deed, because downturn in market, when the bank fold, a lot of assets were being transferred here, transferred there, in and out. So now nobody's doing general now. It's only limited warranty deed. What it is, it covered from the time the seller bought it to the time the seller sell it. Okay, so that's why it's called limited warranty deed. Okay, deed is good for that time period. And you can see the legal description here. So y'all understand who's a grantor, who's a grantee, right? Grantor is the seller, grantee is the buyer. So a warranty deed signature only needs the seller's signature, the buyer's signature is not required. All right, quitclaim. Do y'all know how quitclaim deed works? And the reason why we're coming up with these deeds, so you understand when attorney do their search and back in, what some of the obstacles they may have, okay? Any comments on quitclaim deed, what it is? Okay, quitclaim deed would be me saying, hey, Mark, I'm gonna quitclaim you to my property. Mark said, let's go.
Yes, indeed, I will take it.
And so what it is, unknown to Mark, I have, let's say my property is worth $300,000. Unknowns to Mark, I have about $350,000 outstanding debt. I know, dang it.
I
You
thought
thought
we
it was a
were
good deal. So when you get a quick claim to somebody, there's no title search. It just transfer of name of the deed, not necessarily a clear title. It may have defects. So before you quit claim your children or anybody else, you might want to ask the attorney to, or anybody, to do a title search on that person to make sure there's no outstanding lien against that person at that time. Let's say I quit claim my children, unbeknown to me that they're in debt for $100,000. What have I essentially done?
Put yourself.
Because now her creditor can attach my asset that I just quit claim to my daughter.
Are those quick claims more personal than you see more often, like family and friends and stuff?
It is, and a lot of people want to go the cheap way, so to speak, and not do the proper channel, just like real estate for sale by owners, okay? They don't want to go to the proper channel, and guess what? Sometimes it works out really beautifully, sometimes it doesn't. Okay, so that's what quick claim is. It just transfer a title. If any liabilities attached to that, it doesn't get rid of that liability. Okay. And the reason why parents will want to do that for their kids is that rather than go through probate, when I die, my kids actually has a right to the property. Joint Tennessee in common with the right of survivorship. Okay? So because probate, right now, you don't know how much it costs just to get probate started? $4,500. Attorneys are expensive, y'all. Don't look at me like that. They gotta make their money too. All right, and that's just a starting point. If it's a complicated issue where an attorney has to hunt down to another sibling out of state and advertise in those county that the sibling was last reside in, you know, you're talking about more coordination, more advertising. And this is why it may take up to 9 to 12 months. You have to allow certain time to pass in order to do it. Any questions? And the reason why, because when attorney look at the titles, they're gonna look at what kind of title it has. Okay. Here is promissory note that the borough promises to pay. So just so you know, Georgia is a no fault state. No fault state where the lender can automatically foreclose on you after 90 days if you don't make your payment. They can initiate the foreclosure proceeding. Okay, usually it has to go out and advertise in that county for 30 days before it goes on courthouse step on first Tuesday of the month. So the timeline is probably 4 to 5 months if they're really quick. Sometimes it gets delayed. And sometimes you'll see buyer miraculously have the money to pay right before courthouse day. When you get a client like that, make sure you ask a question, because sometimes they won't tell you. They're like, how much you think it's worth? Well, it's worth $350. How much you think it's worth by selling 2 weeks? If they say stuff like that, your little radar should go off, y'all. Okay? May I ask why? What's your motivation? Because I can help you. I can't help you if I don't know. Okay? Ooh, interest is 10%. Wow, that's quite high. 2020, y'all. Wow, okay. All right, so this is basically a promissory note that will be given to the buyer, the borrower, to sign off on. And there's no negotiation on that. Okay. Woo, we're close. All right, online, I'm gonna start the pool, but you cannot leave until 12:30 per Greg rule. So in class, you have any questions about attorneys and why they do certain things they do? No, y'all really quiet. Yes, ma'am.
It's not about attorneys, but
Sure.
so. Say someone's going through probate and they are trying to find the family and stuff. What happens if they can't ever locate a certain family member or?
It's okay. So the attorney has a network of basically people locator software program, whatever it is. It'll give you the last known address of that person. So they will actually publish in that county of that person's last known address and put it in there, and it's got a certain, you gotta have certain period to cure, typically 30. And if no response, there's another layer of that, okay? There's a thing called quiet title. Once again, I am not an attorney, just so you know. But I will tell you, quiet title, it requires another layer of time. But once that's done, it's done. Okay? Because sometimes people can be deceased and we don't know it. Right? So that's why the overlay additional timeline to protect the public. Okay, one question I have was that if a seller has work, okay, if a seller has work being done, sewer, if for example, it is finished before closing in the seller's name, and the contractor know the home's under contract, can the contractor put a lien on the home if the seller is not paid before closing or after, and will the lien now be the new owner's issue? Okay, so if I'm a contractor and I have a contract with you about doing a sewer thing, and you decide to, not pay me, and I know you're under contract, guess what? I am going to go ahead and put a mechanical lien. So when the mechanical lien is initiated, it's fairly quick, it's reported online. And so typically that will be caught before closing. Now, if it's caught after closing, this is where your title insurance kicks in. Okay, so the buyer 9L10 is not liable for it because they have title insurance. It'll go back to the previous seller, and attorneys are very forceful when they feel like there's an intent to deceive. On the other end, they will pursue that. And usually as a seller, you're not gonna mess around with attorney on that, unless you're a foreign corporation that you're not registered here. But you will be flagged for future transaction. Okay, good question. Frankie, did I answer your question? All right, Bruce asked, I didn't see on page 2, so I'm gonna scroll down on the $8,700. I think that's what he said. The $8,790 was a closing cost. I'm not sure if this is the number you're talking about. That was incurred by the seller as part of your commission. So if you look at that right here, $8,790 is a charge to the seller, it's a reduction from the proceed. I hope I answered that one there. All right, any other attorney regarding question? All right, let me tell you a really interesting fact though. So we had an attorney that, and this can be any attorney actually. So there's a recent fraud with land, vacant land and vacant homes. Okay, you'll get a call as an agent from the seller that says, hey, my name is John Smith. I own property 123 Lucky Street. I know, according to Zillow, because I've done my homework, it's worth $250. But I'm in the real bind, I gotta go for a medical treatment and I need to cash out my land. What can you sell within the next 20 days cash?
You said where?
What can you sell my land for
Okay.
the next 20 days, cash buyer only? You're the agent, I'm imposing a question. You guys can answer online too.
It's 250.
Contact, what, Mark's thing?
No, I'm asking you guys. I'm the seller, okay? And I'm telling you guys, my name's John Smith. I own 123 Lucky Street. I done my research in Zillow. It's worth $250. But I gotta go, my wife's gotta have an operation and I gotta have this money next 20 days. What can you, Mr. and Mrs. Agent, sell my property for cash in the next 20 days?
First, I think we need a appraisal, right?
What can you sell it for?
Said it's going for 250.
The fair market is $250 according to Zillow.
If I ran my own comps on it, and it
Uh-huh.
was 250 and you were trying to sell it within that amount of time frame, I would put it 10% down, which would put it at 25,000. I believe that was, at 250. So then I would say probably sell around 225. You need the money back.
Okay, I like his logic. All right, your next question to me should be, what is your bottom line if you want to sell that quickly? My bottom line, if I can get 200 out of this, minus your commission, I'm good. As a listing agent, won't you get excited? Because you know it's gonna
Figure out
sell, right?
prices.
You're gonna price it to sell. You know what, Mr. John Smith, let's say 199, so we can move this really quick for you. Okay, John Smith, so before you do the listing, what should you ask for? You never met this guy in person? just an internet chat, just a phone conversation.
We gotta do
You already done that. You already did. Now, you already searched and checked on tax record. John Smith is the legitimate owner of this property.
Why is he trying to sell something? His motivation?
My wife is gonna have surgery. I gotta
Okay.
come up with that bill. The money. This is just a piece of property that I have no use for it.
You could do it for, I don't know what it's called, but it's getting that 1% that you can, isn't it? You can get it, if you refer it out to another company, you can get that 1% and then they sell it.
Oh, you mean buyers?
Yeah.
No, that wasn't the answer I was looking for, but okay, creative, you guys are very creative, online, you can chime in. All right, good job, Melissa. Melissa said, check them out in forewarn first, y'all know forewarn, Alan Shaw gone over with you guys. The number calling 706-123-456 does not belong to John Smith, it belonged to Eric Smith. Or Eric Johnson, doesn't matter. That should be your first red flag. Okay, before y'all do all these work, listen to your instinct. Okay, so John Smith, you asked him, say, hey, John, can you, I never met you, and for my broker and their compliance, they don't ask me for a copy of your ID. Would you be comfortable sending that to me so I know that I'm speaking to the right person that can actually sell the property? You being a very good agent, then you due diligence, right? John Smith sent over his ID, no problem. You list the property, 199, bam, you got an offer next day. Because it's a $50,000 equity in there, right? Contract went through, the buyer did an inspection, no problem. And the week of closing, the buyer said, you know what, I'm doing cash, so I already did my inspection, I can close next 3 days. Or by Friday, let's say it's Monday, I can close by Friday. Okay. So the attorney gets all the documents together because there's no lender involved. They don't have to balance the Alta statement. They just put in the information per contract, right? Send it to all parties. Hey, you okay with this Alta statements? Any correction to be made? Neither the listing or selling agent, the selling agent or the buyer agent have any questions about the Alta statement. They both check, that's great, no problem. And 3 days before closing, the seller said, you know what? My wife's operation just got moved up. I won't be able to make it to closing. Can we do a mail away?
We need to do that beforehand. In days.
We got 3 days.
3 days?
Yeah,
Yeah.
we got 3 days. Okay, so attorney's like, sure. I'm gonna sit you up with a notary who's gonna do an affidavit and make sure you bring ID at closing. Remotely. Buyer seller say no problem. Y'all see anything wrong with this so far?
Yeah.
What's
You
that?
still haven't physically met the person.
Do you always meet with everybody that you sell property for?
No, sometimes they're not staying.
I
But it just sound, fish. I guess my team, spider sense. is going,
And
"It's
that's
just down
good.
fish."
That's good. That's why you need to do your due diligence. Okay, so everything's arranged with the seller and the out of state notary to validate the driver's license. The picture match the person. We're good. The seller send the wire instruction to the closing attorney. And when it funded, it went to a Cayman Island account, and that account was closed immediately after that. After the withdrawal. 2 weeks later, the attorney got a call. Hey, Mark, I understand you're the closing attorney for my property. I just got a notice on property, so how did that happen, Mark?
It was cash.
What do you mean, Mr. Smith, Smith?
But the twin brother,
What do you mean, Mr. Smith? You came to you did a remote closing. I have an ID showing this is you with state photo. What do you mean? I live down the street. That's a family property. I never agreed to sell it. You're like,
My blood pressure chart. Oh,
we got $199,000 online. What happened was, the whole moral story is, the seller proposed fraud. Basically, actually got a copy of the state ID of the seller. Lifted the photo out of the state ID. Put their picture on the photo. The information in there are all correct.
That's terrible, isn't it?
So this is why you buy title insurance, buyers. At least you'll recoup your $199,000.
Did I name you a laptop?
Yeah, the attorney done all these work and now have to reverse that based on fraud.
Oh, wow.
Yeah. Yeah,
That's heavy.
because the seller's like, that's a family property. It's well worth more than $199,000. Matter of fact, I just had recently appraised, it's worth 400. Because all the improvement I made on it. So. The gimme on the attorney is that the attorney said, it doesn't matter if he came into an office, show me the ID, sign, there's no way I could have known that this is not legitimate person because they're really good at making fake IDs. Okay, so just so you know, someone closing attorney, I know one of our partners has already done that because they were the victim of the circumstances. They are now hooked up with the state system as a US-wide state system. That if you pop in, you know how you got a barcode back in your ID? When they scan that barcode, an image of that actual ID will pop up. And they will validate your picture against that state ID. Now, if it's a sibling, I can't help you, but but somebody, somebody wants to get creative, they can definitely look like the person. An average person can't distinguish whether or not that's a real person. Y'all watch those crime scene labs, all the disguise and everything else. Not just kidding. But anyway, so I just want you to know, there's a lot of fraud right now on vacant land and also vacant homes. If you get a call and that says, hey, I want you to sell it, I want to sell it for cash and be done with it in the next 2 weeks or less than 30 days, your spider sense should go off. Okay, they'll give you all kinds of stories, very believable stories. All right. All right, online, we have fulfilled your obligation. Got 1 more minute. Thank you very much for attending. If y'all have any questions, let us know. And Sharon, I'll put, Sharon's information's on the handout, so reach out to her for anything that you may have. Before you sign off, I need you to put your name, license number, telephone number, email in the chat box, so I know you stay for the whole duration. And for those of you who stay online 10 minutes after this announcement, then I know you weren't paying attention. So there we go. Hope y'all have a great Friday. Thank you very much online. And we're going to take our break here now before we go through our relaunch portion here in person. Thank y'all.